Welcome everybody to another episode of Ed with the Life Has Spoken. Tonight we have a oop, I don't know what just happened. Okay, okay, here we go. Tonight's guest is someone that I have had the pleasure to play with three times. Um, and he's amazing. We're doing these lives interviews with people to get to know them better, not just their gameplay, but as a person. I'm very excited for this guest. He is one of the best to ever play. He's played more than three seasons. And in those seasons, he's done many, many, many things. He's awesome. He's great. I'm really glad that he is here with me to talk about something, which is Corey Zorix and his trajectory as someone who's played so many times yet has never won, but he is for sure one of the best. He is the most recent inductee to the Hall of Fame, and he's also number seven top best to ever play. Please welcome my guest, Austin Scott Ronald Wilson. Hey,
You were so,
Austin.
you were so close. You mixed up the Ronald and the Scott, but
I
we
know.
got
I'm
there.
sorry. I'm
You're okay.
sorry.
You're okay. No
So,
worries. No
Austin,
worries.
how are
Hello.
you?
I'm good. It's been a long day. I'm a little tired, but I'm good. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited. I've been excited for this, so
Awesome.
I'm happy to be here for
Well,
sure.
I'm glad that you're one of the first few that I get to interview, just because, like I said in the intro, I don't know if you were hearing, right? I was a
Yeah, I can
little
hear. I can hear your intro.
okay. I was a little shaky at first because I was like, I don't know if this is live or anything, but I'm really glad that you are here and I get to like talk to you. And we're going to talk about not just Koi Zorks, but also other stuff because
Okay.
for the people that don't know, you're actually a host of another org
Yep.
and some of that stuff. But let's go back to the very beginning. How was it for you? Because you're from Maryland, right? You're
Yep.
actually, if I'm not wrong, you're the only person from Maryland to ever play
I
Koi Zork.
believe so. Yeah, I believe I'm the only Marylander um, from Corey Zorg to have played at all.
Uh huh.
So it's a big I don't know if it's like a big honor or I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but I'm the only representative for my state, so it's not like the 50 million Pennsylvania people or the 3 California winners. So yeah.
Okay, so talking about Maryland, how was it growing up for you, as someone who's like a fan of Survivor, but also did you start off from like the beginning when you were a kid, or is there something like Amanda said that she found this like maybe like after season 34? Because I've seen you
Mm-hmm.
on your Facebook page, and you've had pictures with people like some of the
Yeah.
survivors, Suri, Kelly Wentworth, just to name a few.
Yeah. I've watched Survivor for like as long as I can remember, honestly.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty sure my family's always watched it. And yeah, I mean, I remember being in like elementary school, like in first grade, and like I have like distinct memories of remembering Rupert like around that time and talking to people about like the pirate on TV that on the show that I watched. So I've watched Survivor for as long as I can remember. That's like my earliest memory. I know like I said, I know my family was a fan of the show and had watched it like when I was younger, and like the times where I don't have those memories. So my earliest Survivor memory is definitely talking about Rupert in elementary school. So I've been a fan for ever, basically my whole life. And then as far as the meeting people or stuff like that, in 2016-ish, I think, 2016, 2017, I think it was. Me and my mom went to Reality Rally and Hearts of Reality, so 2 different charity events where different players from Survivor, Big Brother, etc., come and you get to do meet and greets and stuff like that. So that's where I met some of those players. I met Sari when I went to a Rob Has a Podcast live know-it-alls in New York one year. Was able to, it was a surreal experience of, it was for Survivor Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. The merge episode was when they did their live in New York, and we watched. It was me, a bunch of Survivor fans, and some Survivor players, all in a big giant movie theater, watching Survivor on the big screen. And I'm sitting in my seat, and literally the seat in front of me is Cirie Fields. Like, the whole time I'm watching, I can see the back of Cirie's head for the entire performance, or not performance, but the entire show. And then next to me is one of the Rob Has a Podcast podcasters, David Bloomberg, and right next to him is Jessica Lewis from Millennials vs. Gen X. So it was a like intimate little space where the theater was big, but my bubble was like super small with like Survivor people like right around me. And I actually had brought a couple of buffs just for fun, because that's what you do as a Survivor fan if you have them. And I had a Ikabula buff from Millennials Gen X, and Jessica Lewis asked if she could like wear it during the show. So she actually like wore one of the buffs that I brought for the duration of the show, which was really cool.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, as someone who's like a huge fan of this, like I also collect buffs, but just like tell me, I can't imagine like that surreal moment of actually meeting, I guess you could say, like your heroes or like the people that you watch on TV. And that, what did it change you in a bit, or were you like, oh, it was cool?
I don't know necessarily changed. I mean, my opinions or feelings about different players definitely was influenced or affected after meeting them in person. Just some people, like, I mean, there's that whole saying of like never meet your heroes, and I'm not gonna like burn any bridges now and name names, not that any of them will ever watch this, but like not everyone is the most like friendly when you meet them. But there were some that on the show maybe they seemed like they were awful, that you would never like or associate with them, but then you meet them in person and they're just like this extremely caring, like they love the fans, they love the interaction with the fans, stuff like that. One of those in particular that I definitely have that memory of is Dan Foley, from Worlds Apart. I know he has like his reputation and everything from the show, and even we actually saw him, me and my mom saw him in the airport in Maryland. He got a connecting flight out of BWI, so he lives in Maine. So he flew from Maine to Maryland, and then Maryland down to, or over to California, because I was for Reality Rally. And when my mom saw him in the airport, she was like, she said, I am not going to like him. I don't want to talk to him. My mom had no interest in meeting him. And we ended up not only taking a flight together, but then when we got to the flight, we booked the VIP experience for Reality Rally. So you actually got transported from the airport to the resort with any reality stars that were also in the airport at that time. And Dan Foley was one of the reality stars that was at the airport at the same time, obviously, because we took the same flight. So we drove across, we drove in the airport. Dan was just like he is on the show, like larger than life of like telling stories and stuff, but like he was funny. He wanted to like talk to me and my mom about Survivor as like fans. So like he was super nice. And it's funny, by the end of the trip, when we got back home, I asked my mom, so who was your favorite person that you met? And she said Dan Foley was the person that she had the most. It was Dan Foley and Jimmy T from Nicaragua that were like her two favorite people that she met, and just said that they were so sweet, so kind, so nice. So yeah, so those are the two that she said particularly. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people know, at least in the org, that have talked to me. I've met Kelly Wentworth a couple times. That was obviously a highlight. So for Reality Rally, when you do the VIP experience, so for anyone who doesn't know, Reality Rally takes place in Temecula, California. It was started by Jillian Larson from Survivor Gabon, and it raises awareness for this. Trying to think of the correct term. It's called Michelle's Place. It provides resources for women to get tested or checked for breast cancer that can't necessarily afford it. So they provide like free mammograms, stuff like that. And so we went to that. We did the VIP experience, and when on the third day of it, so it's a Thursday through a Sunday, and on the Saturday they do a Amazing Race style game through the old town of Temecula, where it's like this strip of like buildings. It's a real cute little old town. Like all the buildings are like a different color. It's really cool. But like all of the buildings, there's a task that you would go in. Someone on your team would complete the task. It's teams of 4. And then you get like a playing card to prove you did it. And the first team to like go through and get back wins. And it's a ton of teams though. It's like 40, 50, 60 teams doing this.
Wow.
So if you do the VIP experience though, you get to request, or it's like a first come, first serve, pick your reality star to be on your team. And so I had seen Kelly Wentworth posting on Twitter and stuff of that she was thinking about going, but on the Reality Rally website, it wasn't showing that she was a person that was going. So we had already booked the VIP experience, and we kept getting emails of like, pick your reality star, pick your reality star. And I'm like trying to hold off because I'm like, this is like right after Cambodia. So like Kelly Wentworth is like super fresh in my mind. And I'm like, I want her if she's going. And I'm even like sending her DMs on Twitter, and she's responding. I'm like, are you going? Like I would. And so there was a day where she said, I just sent in like my final word that I'm going in, that I'm going to go. And my mom or me, one of us, emailed the woman and was like, we've heard that Kelly Wentworth is going. If she is, can she be our teammate? And she said she just confirmed that she's going. Yes, you can have her on your team.
Wow.
So from there on, like I'd already been talking to her. So then when she got there, I met her, and she kind of, I don't know if this was true for like all people who did the VIP experience, but from that, she kind of hung out more with me and my mom, because for all the different things that you get transported with all of the reality stars to all the different events. So she like sat with us on the bus everywhere that we went, just talked to us, hung out with us the whole time. Little known fact, I have her phone number, but I'm not gonna share that with anyone. But that like a funny story was, for the day of the race, we had to wake up super early to get on the buses. She did not trust herself to wake up and get to the buses on time. So she gave me her number. She was like, if it's getting close and I'm not there, I need you to call me. She was like, and make sure I'm awake and get me there.
Wow.
So yeah,
did she show up on time?
She showed up on time.
Oh, okay.
She cut it close, but she was there before I had to dial the phone number in. But yeah, so that was a cool experience, and there's so many that I could go on and on about if they were great, but definitely some of the like surprises versus like I expected Kelly Wentworth to be great. She was great, stuff like that.
So would you say that Survivor is your favorite show of all time?
Probably.
Or like probably? Okay, cool.
Probably. And I mean, definitely for reality TV. There was a stretch of time where I did prefer Big Brother to Survivor in early Big Brother seasons, around like seasons 4 through 7, 8 of Survivor, or of Big Brother, I mean. And then kind of Big Brother 9 sucks and we don't acknowledge it. And then some of those seasons after 9 are good, and that's kind of like when they started to even out. And then I'd say for me around Big Brother 15, 16 is where Survivor like took over, and that's kind of like that's around the Cambodia. I think that's even pre-Cambodia, but it's around that time where I'm not completely dumping Big Brother. Like I still watch Big Brother, but yeah, Survivor takes over as the favorite show definitely by then.
Awesome. So you've been a fan of Survivor, and I think I know this. You mentioned this. You actually had played orgs before you joined Corey's org. You actually have been pretty active, and you actually won an org I guess
I have
prior to
pre Corey's org. So I got started with orgs back in 2014 on Twitter. I played a lot of, primarily on Twitter, Big Brother orgs. There was a org that it was called RRBB, short for Reality Radar Big Brother. I played a season of that. I was booted pretty early. It was right before like the main twist of the season ended. And had I been able to last that vote, then I probably would have made it a lot farther in the game. But the way the twist was set up, it was me and this other person basically up on the, because it was actually teams that would get nominated together. But my team had already lost a couple of people, so it had gotten to the point where it was me and this other girl. And this other girl, I've played more games than just this one with her, and she always is phenomenal. Like, she's an incredible player. I didn't know that at the time. This was my first interaction with her. So I had no idea what she was capable of and how great she was. But now knowing how good she is, I'm, in hindsight, not shocked at all that I was voted out over her because she's such a good player. But I played that one. Eventually, that same game had a redemption season where it was returning players, but the returning players had to apply. And in your application, you had to say why you felt you deserved redemption. And I sent this host an entire like 5-paragraph essay on like why my first season I was like so screwed by the twist and this, that, and the other, and how I know that I could do better. And I managed to get to final 7 of that Big Brother game. Got totally screwed by just, at that point, I was the last member not in the big alliance left at that point in the game. And I couldn't get them to turn on each other. And I got, someone had won a power where they could replace someone playing in the veto. And so we're at final 7 and I get nominated. And then it was literally the one person not picked for the veto had that power. And she swapped herself out with me, basically giving me no shot to win the veto to save myself. And I knew I was gone. I told her, I was like, why'd you do that? And she said, if you never, we'll get to that. She said, if she was picked to play in the veto, then she wouldn't have used it. So she would have given me a shot to save myself had she been picked for the veto. But the fact she wasn't picked for the veto, she felt like she needed the chance to play to save herself. And she said that obviously if she took one of her own alliance members out to put herself in, that would have been seen like super shady. So I get that. My favorite Corey's org, Castaway. We're not even talking about Corey's org yet. We'll come back to that. When we're talking about Corey's org, we can talk about that, Alan.
Shout out to Alan and Jeremy who are watching, by the way.
Yes, of course. We love Jeremy and Alan. So that's some of my first interactions. There's other Twitter games that I played. And then I took a break for a while. I only really played for that year, my senior year of high school, and a little bit after. And then college is busy, so I took a long break for college. And then after my senior year of college, I started playing again. I got contacted and or not contacted, but I saw orgs being posted on Facebook. Mariah's here too. Saw orgs being posted on Facebook, and I was like, you know what? Let me give this a shot. No, actually, correction. I saw that there were orgs on Facebook, and Survivor Fan Jury was created. Like the big page was created. And after a while, I was kind of like, I had a little bit more free time, and I reached out to Thomas Stevens, who is the main creator of Survivor Fan Jury, like from the baby days. And I was there in the baby days. And I had asked him at a certain point, I was like, have you ever thought about like this fan group creating an org? And he was like, it's funny that you ask, because a couple other people have also like approached me about that. Let me get you guys all together in a chat, and you guys can see if you can work something out. So that's how I actually met Dylan Campbell, future Corey's org player. And obviously Leslie Steffens, but that wasn't when I met Leslie. But it was me, Dylan Campbell, and a guy named Peter Shields. we came together and we created Survivor Fanjoy Games. And through that, after playing that and meeting different people, eventually meeting other org hosts, I got into some other games. We actually, our first season, 4 people from our season actually created a org together after they played our game. Like, they were inspired by Survivor Fanjoy Games to make their own. So then me and Leslie Steffens, who has also played Corey's org once, she played season 1, and then we loved her so much and we wanted a little bit more help, so we added Leslie as a host for season 2, and she's been with us all the way through now. So me, Leslie, Dylan, and McKenna got added as a host this season, but for a while it was just me, Leslie, and Dylan. But me and Leslie went and we played the game that was created by our former players, and me and Leslie got all the way to the final 3 together, and I ended up winning that game in a 4-2-1 vote. Leslie got 3rd place. I still believe Leslie should have been the runner-up of that season, but I'm not going to complain too much since I won. Leslie still believes she should have won, and I understand her argument for why. And yeah, so that's kind of how I got back into playing orgs. So I played that, and even after I played that and I won that, I was so exhausted. I was like, dang, I forgot how much it takes to like play one of these things. So I didn't think I was going to play anymore, and lo and behold, now I've played 5 seasons of Corey's, or 4 seasons. I don't count one of them, and people know why. We'll get to that. But yeah, so everyone that knows the horror stories of season 1 knows we were tricked into playing an org. So probably would have never played had it been stated from the beginning that it was going to be an org. But,
really?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have. So for the people who don't know about I'm sure if they watch Corey's interview, they would know. I'm pretty sure he probably talked about it. But season 1, we didn't know it was going to be an org. It was Corey went live during quarantine to do some trivia on the Survivor Fanjoy page. And he, so they were actually playing for a while on the first night that he did it. And I joined like super late, but managed to end up like catching up to other people in the trivia questions. And by the end of the night, I had the most points, and he was like, all right, we're going to do this again tomorrow. And Austin, you'll get an advantage in it. And I was like, well, if I have an advantage, then I'm not going to not show up. So I showed up the next day to play again. Yeah, I know, my first advantage ever.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. In the first day, this guy gets an advantage. And this is, I'm saying this because I've played with you, and you're, from what I think, you're the king of riddles and advantages.
Well,
but we'll talk about that later.
I'm just not the king of playing them, which we'll also talk about later, too. Give me 1 second just to respond to the person I live with.
Sure.
I said that, Jeremy. Hold on.
Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Jeremy and Alan who are watching us. Hi, guys. How's it going? Thank you for tuning in to Austin's interview. We're currently talking about season 1 and how it all started and his journey on season 1. I'm sure he's going to tell us a lot of stuff that I don't know. And some of you guys are going to probably reminisce about it while hearing him talk about it. So I do have some stats here, and going back to what you said about your name is actually one thing that Gabe, shout out to Gabe for providing me with these stats. He said you actually have the longest name by one character over season 8's Vicky, which is Vinix. I'm butchering this name. Sorry. Yeah. I should not even. It's Vic Nurse Warren Thangalavu something. I'm so sorry if you're watching. But Vicky, and you actually have the longest name in Corey's org. Austin
awesome.
Scott.
Austin Ronald
Scott Wilson. And then actually, these are not my words. This is his words. He's like, why can't you just be Austin Wilson? Why? And he's like, pretentious beep. Is there a reason why you always include your whole name, or sometimes you just like, you know what, just Austin Wilson?
Yeah, let me just. Sorry, my boss also texted me at the same time, so I'm
No
trying to
worries.
respond to her really quick.
No worries.
With the
I don't know what that reference is, but okay, Ellen. So if anybody has any questions, you can send them right in while we wait for Austin, so that way you can see them and try to like answer them as much as per your likeness, I guess, if he can answer them. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions for you.
Okay, so yeah, season one there was the whole trivia thing.
Mhm.
I won that trivia after like catching up after people had been playing for a while. It was actually Gabe who was in the lead when I had joined, and it was mainly between me and him.
Mhm.
So we're going through, and then the next day we start playing, and that's when Corey drops the bombshell of the first 12 people to score 3 points will get put into a game, yada yada yada. Basically describes an org.
Mhm.
And I don't even think Corey knew that what an org was at that point in time. I think Corey might have even thought he was creating something never heard of before. But I have never asked him if he knew what an org was before. But I feel like I used the word org around him, and he was like, "What's an org?" So he might have known that games exist, just didn't know they were called orgs. But yeah, so my advantage was I started with 2 points, so I needed to basically score 1 point to qualify. Very first question Corey asked, I'm the first one to answer. I qualify. But I wasn't gonna just like not play the trivia because the trivia was fun.
Mhm.
And the way Corey had framed it, it seemed to me that most of it was going to be trivia. And it ended up obviously not just being trivia. There's trivia, luck, stuff like that. And we'll talk about season one a little bit. But let me go back to your question of why my full name is my Facebook. And this is just me being stupid as a child, basically, is the answer to that question.
Are those really your names, though? Or is your name really Scott and Ronald?
Yeah, my full name is Austin Ronald Scott Wilson.
Is that on your birth certificate?
Yeah. My Ronald and Scott are my middle names. I have 2 middle names.
Okay, because I was like...
Yeah, so my first name's Austin. My middle names are Ronald and Scott. My last name's Wilson. Ronald is my uncle's name. My uncle passed away before I was born, like a few months before I was born. And Scott is my dad's name. So that's where those 2 names come from. I think I was just going to be when they knew they were pregnant, they knew I was going to be born. I think I was going to be Austin Scott Wilson, and then they added Ronald into their plan once he passed away, as a way of like honoring him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that came from. So the reason it's all 4 names on Facebook is because the reason it's a full name on Facebook is I made my Facebook when I was like 14, like middle school age. And at that point in time, when someone asked me to put in my full name, I think of my full name. I put all the names. That's my full name, is my first, middle, and last name.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Facebook had asked for when I did that. And back when I made Facebook, like I had never seen a Facebook profile before, so I didn't know people just did their first and last name. So I put all 4 names in. And for a while, I think Facebook now allows you the opportunity to go in and change your name. But there was a period of time, like when I first made my Facebook, I was so embarrassed that I put all 4 names that I tried to go in and change it, and it wouldn't let me. It wouldn't let me edit my name. Wow. So I was like, well, I'm just stuck with it. But it's gotten to the point too where I've talked to people about like maybe I'll go in and I'll change my name, and they're like, no, like you can't do that now. And they're like now it's a thing, and I'm like, yeah, well, I guess if it's a thing, then I got to keep it.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, okay, it kind of made it interesting because I was like, okay, this dude has a lot of names, but
and also I will say Austin's a pretty common first name, Wilson's a pretty common last name. Having the middle names also does help with specifically being able to find me for people. Yeah. It's really easy for me to when I meet new people that I do want to add on Facebook, it's really easy for me to help them find my Facebook just by say put in all 4 of these names, and I'm the only one that's going to come up then.
Yeah.
So that's why that's another reason why I've just kept it as all 4.
So going back to season 1,
Yeah.
When you find out that this is actually an orc and you get to play a season, you say now that you wouldn't have played knowing the things that you knew, but you ended up playing anyways. What was your mindset going into that game? And obviously you wanted to win. Did you really want to win, or were you just like, let me just see how long I can last? And it's fun. It's like not that much people, because there was like, I believe it was like 12 people.
12. Yeah, season 1 is 12 people. I mean, obviously once I decided I was playing, like the goal is to win. Like it's that's the goal. And originally I had believed, like I said, it was going to be trivia based, and the fact that I had so easily won the first like 2 trivia nights he did, I was like, this is going to be a cakewalk. I was like, this is going to be fine. This is going to be easy. And it obviously was not. But before we even had our first episode, I could also tell, obviously, that Gabe was going to be big in the game. And I think it was Gabe who reached out to me, and we had a hand in forming the first alliance. And now Gabe could correct me potentially that maybe he had a different alliance before this, but in my mind, in my memory, me and Gabe are also part of the very first Corey's Org alliance to ever exist. It did not have a name, but it was me, Gabe, Madness Maggie is in that alliance, and season 1 player Danny Falks, who has never come back to play again. But us 4 were the first alliance, to my knowledge, in Corey's Org history, and we ran the game for a while and I saw in the post that you made advertising this on Corey's Org, Gabe had mentioned the story of Maggie coming to me, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But yeah, it was interesting. So I'm also, Gabe might have probably put this in the thing. It was I think maybe the fun fact in my number 7 placement. I don't know. It's always the fun fact I use for Corey's Org. I'm the first Corey's Org person to find a hidden immunity idol.
I literally have this. This is the next question I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
And it's an advantage. You got this in an advantage challenge for final 6, 90 votes.
No. Okay. So not that. That's a different thing.
Okay. I'm just going off.
So
this
Corey's Org, or Corey did like. So Corey's Org on season 1 was all streamed through, was all him going live on Survivor Fan Jury. Like there was no Corey's Org page made. It was all on Fan Jury for everyone in Fan Jury to see. Okay, McKenna and Sam as an alliance because they're sisters doesn't count. Just reading the chat that Alan put in. So they're a real life alliance. That doesn't count. So the Corey would go live on just Survivor Fan Jury, and he did. It's so funny thinking back now because he doesn't do this stuff, and if he did, I would probably make so much fun of him for still doing it. But he would like go around his bedroom and like show stuff from his room, and like while he's showing stuff in his room, he's using like his next time on Survivor voice, and he's like giving like little hints of like all the things that are coming up in the live for that night or whatever, or the next night. But in that, and this is where me having played orgs before helped, I guess, in a way of just me thinking to ask maybe about it, whereas other people who had never done anything, like a McKenna or a Sam or some other people from season 1 who had never played orgs before, Abby, they might not have thought to like do this, but Corey kept panning over and zooming in kind of on this little like scroll on a box, and so I was just like, what the heck? And I screenshotted it and sent it to him. I was like, why do you keep doing this? Like, what is this? Is this important? And he's like, congrats, you have an idol good until final 7. And I'm like, oh, cool. Sounds good. An idol that Corey then would later accidentally or on purpose, I don't know, trick me into playing for no reason.
Because, interesting vote.
Yes, that is the thing. So first vote, I win immunity at the first tribal council. It's easy, simple. We just vote out Ramel, move on. Second,
Can I just say that I'm not shocked that you won the first immunity?
yeah. Well, the first immunity, if I'm wrong, Gabe will probably come back here and correct me or something. But I believe the first immunity challenge was trivia. So like, I had a pretty good feeling that like if it was trivia and it also relied on the lag of the computer, I was going to win.
Test.
Yeah, test. This is before Nick Whitney became god of test, because Nick Whitney also plays season 1. So I win the first challenge, and then the second challenge is not trivia, so I do not win it. There's one challenge I win that I believe might have been luck, or non-trivia at least, but that would be a Gabe question, not a me question. I think I either won 2 or 3 immunities in season 1, but I don't know for sure whether or not I can trust this 4-person alliance, which makes no sense because this internet sucks. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to think all the way back to then of whether it was just like I don't know if I trusted the alliance or what exactly. But here's the real thing: an alliance of 4 in an 11-person tribe is not a majority. So in my mind, even if I trust Gabe, Danny, and Maggie, I don't know for certain who they have with them. And like I had talked to McKenna a couple times, so like I felt kind of okay with her, but like I still couldn't be certain. And having won both trivia nights before the season, winning the first meeting challenge, like I've already put this target on my back that's like this. So I don't know for certain that my alliance plus maybe whatever other numbers we might have is going to hold. So there's already the paranoia there, plus the base paranoia everyone has at every tribal council they go to, because it's unnatural to not have some level of paranoia. And while Corey is in the live, while he's getting the messages sent to him, he's writing down, he's like, "Ooh, this is an interesting vote." Like he was like commenting on it, like the result was a surprise. And for him, it might have been. Like in his mind, Austin's going to go now because he didn't win. Like that's the logical thing. Like get rid of the person who's winning all these things that we've done so far. So maybe in his mind, the fact that I didn't get the majority is what's interesting, is what's surprising. But in my mind, I'm like, this alliance is set. Like we should be good. We should be having the majority here. So if Corey says it's interesting, then it must mean that I'm going. So I play my idol. I negate like 3 votes out of the 11 that were cast, and it was a wasted idol basically, which only messed up my game a little bit because I obviously, for people who don't know, I get 5th place in season 1, so my idol expired at 7. So it's not like I could have had that idol to save me at that point.
Yeah,
but I might be wrong. But I believe had I not played the idol there, then Corey wouldn't have hidden a new idol. And what happens at Final 8 is that Gabe gives Maggie an idol to save herself.
Which sends McKenna?
Sends Thomas home, I believe.
Okay.
Or it might have been McKenna. Oh my gosh, season 1 is a blur now. I used to remember all this so vividly. No, I think it sends Thomas home, and then McKenna goes next. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly what happens. Thomas goes home because Maggie plays the idol, and Maggie and Gabe still voted the way our alliance said we were going to. Me and Danny flip with, I think, Abby, McKenna, and Sam. And Thomas had an extra vote. Thomas voted 2 votes on McKenna, I believe. But Gabe, Maggie, and Amy, because Gabe had Amy in season 1, those 3 voted for Thomas like me and Danny had said we were going to. And then me, Abby, McKenna, Sam, and Danny all put our votes on Maggie. Mm-hmm. I think actually Thomas voted for one of the sisters. I don't remember which one. But Thomas definitely voted for one of the sisters. Gabe gives Maggie his idol because both Amy and Danny both completely... I don't even know that they directly told Gabe. I know Danny's was a message to Gabe of saying, like, it's not you, but I'm sorry for what's about to happen. Like, before the votes are even read. Like, before Corey even asked for an idol, Danny sends that. I'm like, not like once I found out later, I was like, what the hell? Like, why would you send it before? Like, wait until there's no idol played and then say it when he's like reading the votes. But I think because I told Amy, because I wanted Amy to still trust me to potentially work with her further on. I didn't know how tight she was with Gabe. So I think Gabe had also said Amy had told him, but he was already trying to give Maggie the idol at that point because Danny had told him. So Maggie plays the idol, and what the point of this was, had I not played my idol at 11, I don't think an idol gets replanted. Therefore, Gabe doesn't have an idol to give to Maggie at 8. So Maggie goes at 8, and the game's totally different there. Like, now the majority alliance that's playing together is me, Danny, Abby, McKenna, and Sam, with Thomas, Gabe, and Amy on the outs. And who knows for sure if that would have stuck, because literally Maggie saves herself with an idol. We go to the next tribal, and Maggie's still an available option. And we know an idol got played, so there's no idols. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, we still have 5 of 7. Like, Danny, Abby, McKenna, and Sam are all still in the game. So why don't us 5 just vote together again and actually take out Maggie this time? But because also remember season 1 of Corey's Org, we did multiple votes in a night. Like, we would go vote tribal, vote, or like challenge tribal, challenge tribal, challenge tribal, like back to back to back. And me and Maggie were actually like the king and queen of, like, we would message each other and be like, we gotta tell Corey that we're done. We don't have time to go past this time, so that we don't do too many, because we only have this many votes planned out. So like we kind of like told Corey we had stuff to do, even though we didn't, just because we didn't want to have to do more than like 2 tribals in a night.
That brings me to one of my questions. McKenna gets voted out.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, correct me if I'm wrong, you ask or you tell Corey that you can't do another tribal after she gets voted off.
That was always the plan. So it had nothing to do necessarily with McKenna being voted out. Maggie and I had already gone into that night saying we were going to do 2 tribals and then tell Corey we had to stop. So obviously a blindside on me is even more reason for me to be like, all right, we're done. But yeah, so in my mind, I'm like, all right, we just voted out Maggie. Let's just actually do it this time. But within that one challenge span and like the 10 minutes we get to like strategize, Gabe and Maggie flip Danny and Abby, and those 6 now all vote out, or those 5 now all vote out McKenna. And it's just me, McKenna, and Sam that vote together on Maggie. And McKenna goes completely blindside me. And at that point, between the 2 sisters, I was actually closer to McKenna. But when McKenna goes, I'm on the outs. I just got totally blindsided by everyone else in the game, and that's when Sam becomes my first ride or die of Corey's Org history.
Oh wow! You actually become immune at the McKenna vote. Am I right? You want immunity?
I want to say yes,
because I think Gabe said that you want immunity.
Yes,
Had you not won immunity, do you think it would have been you?
I don't think so, because I think there's a chance Abby flips to vote me. I think Danny flipped because he wanted to break up the sisters. I think McKenna was the vote. I might be wrong, but in my mind and from the stories I've always been told, McKenna was the vote to break up the sisters, because people were worried about letting the duo of 2 sisters get to like a final 6 or a final 7, like stuff like that. So in my mind, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been me had I won. I think it was going to be McKenna or Sam, whichever one didn't have immunity. And if they both didn't have immunity, McKenna was the more active of the 2 sisters. Sam admittedly didn't. Sam didn't even use Facebook before the game, let alone during the game. She eventually started talking a little bit more when McKenna was out. But so McKenna goes, and then I do actually relink it back up with Gabe and Maggie, and we vote Danny out at 7th. But still, even then, I knew that like the vote of Danny was really just, I need to preserve my own life. Like, if they're willing to get rid of Danny at 7, let's get rid of Danny at 7. So me and Sam are still in the game, and we get one step closer. And that's what leads into the poll. So if you want to talk a little, I don't know if you had more of a statement about the 90 to 90 poll.
Well, it just says there's a poll advantage, and then it says for final six and 90 to 90 in votes.
Yes.
Tied for most immunity wins that season, but had less tries than Gabe.
Okay. So yeah. So okay. So to translate that from Maltese to American, at Final Six, Corey posted a poll on Survivor Fan Jury that basically said, "Who do you want to receive an advantage in the Final Six Immunity Challenge?" And that poll gets posted, and Gabe just like starts running away with it, and I'm like, Gabe doesn't need it. I'm like, he is fine. I like, hello people. I know I've been like winning challenges, but I'm the one on the bottom here. Like, please help. So I enlist the help of the best campaign manager that I know. And I go to Leslie Steffens and I'm like, hey, you have more connections than me. I don't really play other orgs. I don't know that many people. Will you please help me? I go to bed. I wake up. I have 70 votes to Gabe's like 20. Like Leslie gets me like 70 votes overnight. And I'm like, what in the world? I was like, how'd you do that? But then that entire day, Gabe's numbers creep up more. Leslie gets me another 20 votes. I get up to like 90. I'm at 91 at a certain point, not realizing Gabe had voted for me to get the advantage. And this is where Gabe gets a little tricky. Gabe votes for me. And this is another thing I'll talk about it. At a certain point, I check to see like who's voted for who. And I see under Gabe, I see an Emily Millette, which, spoilers, Abby's sister. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I get a little confused, but I'm like, maybe it's just like, I don't know how common of a last name Millette is. I couldn't necessarily tell whether or not Abby was in the profile picture. So I was like, whatever. And Emily is the triplet that doesn't look like Abby. So like, had it been Morgan Millette and I opened that, they look identical almost. But Emily looks nothing like Abby. So I couldn't be certain that it was her or that they were related at all. But I've come to find out that basically everyone else in the game that's not me or Sam gets their friends and family to go vote for Gabe. Like all four of them are working together because Gabe had the most votes. He was the only one that had a shot of catching up. And everyone wants me to be vulnerable at 6 to vote me out. But we go, and like we hit the 24-hour mark, and on my screen at the 24-hour mark, I win 91 to 90. What I was unaware of was at the 24-hour mark, Gabe took his vote off of me to make it a 90-90 tie.
Wow.
And so it ties, and we end up doing, at the very start of the next episode, we have to do a tiebreaker for the advantage, and I do end up winning that advantage. And I get an advantage that I didn't even have to use to win the challenge. It was basically if you get a question wrong, because eventually Corey realized that the lag was an unfair advantage for me, and he started making the trivia turn-based. So it was basically, if you get a question wrong, you're out, but my advantage was I got an extra life. Mm-hmm. But I never got a question wrong until everyone else was eliminated from getting questions wrong, so I never had to use the extra life. And it would have been really helpful if I could have been like, Corey, can I just carry that advantage over to Final 5 when I actually got something wrong? So that's what that advantage was. And I do win the challenge. I feel like there was something else about that I was going to say. And this kind of goes into that vote. Earlier that weekend, so before the poll, Maggie calls me. This is the only call I have received ever in Corey's org at that point in time. It wasn't a video call. It was an audio call. So like video calls were not a thing to my knowledge in season 1. I've always been told that they started in season 2. But audio calls were. Maggie calls me, and I'm in this exact same room, and I have a 2-hour phone call with Maggie where we hash everything out. Oh, and this is something that we should have mentioned earlier, because this is the reason for the flip against Maggie at 9 is the story Gabe commented on your like advertisement for this, which is Maggie comes to me at a certain point after the first episode or so, and she says, "I don't trust you," basically. Like, that's not her exact words, but she said, "I want to get rid of one of the sisters next because I don't trust that you're going to stick with us and not flip to the sisters if we let them stay too long." And I was baffled that she would straight up tell me to my face that she thought I was going to flip on the Alliance. And before she said that, I was going to, obviously, my preference was to keep McKenna and Sam around if I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But my intention would have been to stick with the 4. But when I hear from someone else that they don't trust me, now I'm more inclined to probably want to flip with McKenna and Sam at some point. So that was more so the only real reason that when Danny brought up the idea of flipping on Maggie to me, like, that conversation is what makes me do it.
Mm-hmm.
But so now fast forward to Final 6, that 2-hour phone call, we hash everything out with each other. Like, we talk about that conversation. We talk about the lies we've told each other the entire time. Like, me and Maggie have a whole come to Jesus conversation for 2 hours.
So it was 2 hours.
It was 2 hours, yeah. And we end up getting to a point by the end where we come up with a plan of Maggie and Abby will vote for Gabe. Me and Sam. No, this was the other dumb part of the plan.
You wanted to do a 2-2-2?
We were going to do a 2-2-2, but I was dumb and didn't. What I should have set it up as is 2 votes on, me and Sam vote for Gabe. Maggie and Abby vote for Amy, and then Gabe and Amy vote for me or whoever at 6. That's what we should have done. For some reason, the plan ended up being that me and Maggie would vote together for Gabe, and Abby and Sam would vote together for Amy, which then splits mine and Sam's votes. So 6 at Final 6, I believe the vote was a 4-1-1 because me and Sam don't even vote together.
Mm-hmm.
And that, honestly, at first, that I was like, oh my gosh, Maggie's an incredible player. Like, I was like, what an amazing, like, yeah, you wasted 2 hours of my life, and I'm a little upset about that. But from a game perspective, wow, bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got me. They vote Sam out at 6 because I do win immunity at 6. But so it was 4 votes on Sam, 1 vote on Gabe, 1 vote on Amy. And I'm like, bravo, good job. You did it. And I think Gabe even does play an idol there, just in case. I don't remember for sure. He plays an idol at 6 or 5. Gabe does have an idol. And that's why we were going to split, because we knew Gabe had another idol. So that's what happens at Final 6. And then Final 5, I lose immunity and I get voted out. And they were all very, like, upfront with me. I tried. Like, obviously I didn't just, like, lose Final 5 immunity and be like, well, oh well. I'm pretty sure I was actually the first person out of the Final 5 immunity. So at that point, they were all just playing for fun. Like, didn't matter who won. I was going. Like, the challenge no longer had any, like, bearing on the game.
Is that what the DVD covers that you had to guess?
No, I didn't get to guess the DVD cover. Let's be clear about that. Corey took DVD covers, and I think I was the 4th person to get a question for this one. Corey takes a DVD cover, takes a piece of paper, covers up the faces, and you see, like, 3 hats, and you can see what season it is. Which, by the way, super Googleable at that point, because at that point, you can't tell we're Googling. Like, we have enough time because we can blame it on the lag. Mm-hmm. So you Google, like, Survivor Heroes versus Villains cover, and you look at who the 3 people on top are, and you say whichever one he's pointing to. Like, like, those are, like, the easiest questions at that point in time. So, like, I don't know if this is the order, but Gabe gets the first one, then Amy gets the next one, then Abby gets the next one. And then he puts the DVD away. And he pulls out a photo album from when he went to Hearts of Reality. Covers up the face of someone that he's taking a selfie with. And it's like, Austin, who's this? I don't know. He had short, curly brown hair. I'm like, Adam Klein? Nope, Chris Underwood. Austin, you're out. And I'm like, well, shit.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, everyone else got super easy DVD cover. And then he's like, all right, let me break out my own personal photo album for you that you've never seen before. So I am eliminated on my first question in the very first round, and they all just keep playing. And I am messaging Abby, I'm messaging Amy, I'm messaging Gabe, I message all of them. I'm like, please, anything, like just give me a chance. Like, and a couple of them said they were thinking about it. They've all since told me they weren't thinking about it, but they just didn't have the heart to tell me right away. But they all did by the time the votes came out, and by the time we had to vote, they all told me like, look, if we don't do it, you're gonna win. Like, this is like, there's maybe one or two more immunity challenges. So I don't even know if we knew it was going to be a final two or not. I can't remember. But they're like, look, there's one or two challenges left. You have like the best shot of winning both of them. And if you're in the end, you're going to win. And when I get to the jury, that was correct. If I got to the end of that season, I was going to win that season. So, and I think like the only person who would have given me a struggle was Gabe, but in season 1 with the final 2, like there was no shot of me and Gabe ever sitting in the end together. Like by that point in time, maybe if you asked me at final 12 if there was a chance me and Gabe would have sat together, I might have said yes. But by the time we're at final 5, me and Gabe both realized like if we can sit there with anyone that's not the other person, we have a good shot of winning. But even with that being said, when I got to the jury, I was voting for Maggie to win that season if she got to the end. Maggie was getting my vote all the way up like until Final Tribal.
That ties into something that is here.
Okay.
Season 1 was it like the first time, or back then you could help people out in the challenges?
Yes.
It says here you helped out Abby.
And yes, I was on the jury helping Abby in an immunity challenge. That is a true fact. I don't know if that was against the rules or not, but the rules were not really clear in season 1. So yes, there was. When I was voted out, I was definitely rooting for Abby. Me and Abby had gotten to a point where we had talked really more than anyone else. Like obviously, I talked to McKenna a lot. I had talked to Sam a lot. But outside of like me and Sam being ride or dies, my next closest friendship was probably Abby. We just talked about like normal life stuff. It wasn't even always game. So at that point, from a personal standpoint, I was like, I want you to win some challenges, vote out some of these people, build a little resume right here at the end, and maybe you can win. So I was definitely, and I also had a good feeling that if Abby lost Final Four, she was going. Like I thought it would either be Fire or she would go. And I was praying that at least once she lost, I was like, please at least give Abby a shot at Fire, Maggie. And what people weren't fully aware of was that Maggie, Amy, and Gabe were a final 3. Because from the outside perspective, they did a great job of it being like Gabe and Amy are a pair, and Maggie and Abby are a pair. So yeah, I was hopeful, but yes, I did help Abby in the Final Four challenge to no avail. She did not end up pulling out the win there, but we tried. But yeah, all the way up until Final Tribal, I like, especially after Abby's out, from a game perspective, I was in my mind going to vote for Maggie. Because I had felt, and I usually vote this way, and if we talk about game changers, I'll explain that a little bit more, but I typically vote for the person that I feel outplayed me personally the best. Like, I vote out of respect for you got me, cool. Like, you get my vote because you got me out. So, yeah, I felt like Maggie did that. Like, Maggie took that whole time, that whole 2 hours to, like, talk to me, reassure me, make me feel good, and she duped me. Like, I was done. Like, she got out Sam, and then I was on my own. I had to win out. But the issue is, and this is infamous in the org.
I was just going to say, because, like, you're saying that you're going to vote for Maggie, but the one vote that came for Maggie was from Sam.
Yes.
And low-key, this is just a joke, Gabe, but I think he still holds a grudge towards Sam because he would have had, like, the perfect, like,
Yeah,
winners?
Gabe acts like I'm pretty sure it's more of a joke, but Gabe
Mhm.
acts like he hates Sam because she didn't vote for him to win. And Maggie, I think, still owes Sam dinner because I think Maggie said she would buy Sam dinner after like finding out that Sam was the only vote for her. But yeah, I went into that final tribal voting for Maggie, and then she bombs final tribal. Like she goes in and she tries to claim that she played an honest game.
Mm-hmm.
That like she told people how it was. She tried to claim an honest game. And she said, she was like, with the exception of Danny and Abby, I feel like I played an honest game with everyone. And I was like, hello. Remember that 2-hour conversation we had on Saturday? I don't feel honest over here. I don't feel the honesty. And her response to me, because I asked her that question at Final Tribal, like I give her one more shot to admit it. And she's like, yeah, but I told you that I was voting you out when you went. And I'm like, okay, so you were honest then. That doesn't mean you played an honest game with me. So yeah, so that's that more or less between Maggie bombing tribal and just a couple of things that Gabe said. Gabe's tribal was just a much better performance than Maggie's was in season 1, and my vote went to Gabe to win that season for that reason.
So season 1 is over.
Yeah.
And then season 2, you decide not to play, or what happened there?
I choose not to play in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I will also, the one thing that I realized I kind of glanced over in season 1 that I want to talk about is that for me, my hardest vote of season 1 that I want to talk about was voting Nick out of season 1. So Nick was, like I said, Nick was by far the hardest person for me to vote out because, like I said, that alliance of 4 was formed. And that's like early in that game, that was what we were sticking to. That's what I was going to stick to, yada, yada. And that 4 decides at a certain point, Nick's the next to go. And Nick messages me. And obviously, I'm never going to ignore someone when they message me. And me and Nick start talking. It's just like, we hit it off the bat as friends, like immediately. Like it was so easy to talk to Nick. Like we had similar interests. We both were fans of the show Once Upon a Time. Like we were just talking and really relating on a lot of like common interests and stuff. And I remember having that conversation and in my mind being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to vote this guy out tomorrow. This sucks. I was like, and I even did, I like went back and I was like, kind of tried to see if maybe we could do Thomas first. But like, I didn't want to be the person in the alliance that's like really pushing hard to like not do something and get like suspected for like something. So they were like, we still think Nick should go. And I was like, all right, fine. Like it can be Nick. And then we voted out Nick. But yeah, that was definitely for season 1. That's the hardest vote that I had to do, like without a doubt, no question in my mind. Voting Nick out was like really painful. And low key, like I think a lot of people, one thing that we didn't mention that people forget about is that season 1 did have an outcast twist. Not almost, it did. They failed. But
you guys won immunity, right?
Yeah, so it was the people in the game versus the people that had been voted out, and this was right after McKenna's boot. And this is why I want to talk about it, because I was actually feeding answers to McKenna in hopes that the outcast would win and vote McKenna back into the game. Because I messaged her, I was like, if you guys win, do you think you'll get back in? And she said, I think so if I'm the one who like wins it for us. So I'm trying to feed McKenna answers, but she's not seeing my answers and posting them faster than Nick is answering them on his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I have to switch. And I'm like, I just have to answer these on my own and like shut the outcasts out, because I couldn't trust, after like relating and connecting to Nick so well, I didn't know how burned he was going to feel getting voted out. Like I didn't know if Nick came back in, if I was going to be his target. So I was like, I just have to shut it out and like keep the outcast from winning so that Nick doesn't come back. Because I was like, if Nick wins this for them, they're going to vote Nick in. Like I'm not going to get McKenna back at this point. So I just thought that was also a fun little story we skipped over, because I completely forgot about the outcast twist at first. It was when you talked about me helping Abby at Final Four
Mhm.
that it triggered. I was like, yeah, that wasn't the only time I tried to help someone beat me or win a challenge. So yeah, but yeah, so season 2 rolls around, and I was just season 1. We played like every single night.
Mhm.
I was like, give me a break. I was, like, other people played, like Nick plays, and I'm shocked Maggie plays again because like she was the whole time. Like Nick plays, and I get it. Nick was kind of an earlier boot in season 1, so he wasn't as burnt out as the rest of at least how I was. But yeah, I just choose not to play season 2 because I'm so burnt out from season 1. I just want a break.
Were you impressed with Maggie returning and actually making it again to the end?
Yeah. So I wasn't entirely aware of how many people really like followed season 1 that well.
Mhm.
But like there were other season 1 people on there that I'm sure were spreading the word of like how Maggie played season 1. So for her to have that like reputation and target and go into season 2 and make it to the end again is, I do think, genuinely impressive. I can't particularly speak to how she played season 2 of like how, like why it was impressive, but she obviously played a better game because she does get more votes from the jury in that season than she did the first time around. So yeah, I can't really speak too much on Maggie in season 2 because I wasn't there, but I definitely am impressed that she was able to get to the end again after how big her target was, or how big her target should have been, I should say.
So the next season is season 3, and
Yes.
this is something that you and Gabe go back and forth talking, like whether
we argue so much of whether I should be on this cast or not.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, once and for all, your honest opinion? Because we have his version, but what's your opinion that you're gonna stand by it?
My opinion is, I've the way I've like ended up like settling it with Gabe is that he can include the placement on my statistics, on my stats, as long as he continues to inform me what my stats are without it. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, it's always going to be like an asterisk of that season being on my stats. I have always tried the argument that I am the Corey Zorg equivalent of Melissa McNulty in Survivor Fiji, mm-hmm. where I'm there, I'm in the cast, but I don't quite make it to the first episode. Mm-hmm. And like, we don't consider Melissa McNulty 20th place of Survivor Fiji. Mm-hmm. So why should I be 22nd place of Fans versus Favorites? And Gabe's rebuttal is always that I participated in the first reward challenge. And so like that's really where it is. Like I didn't make it to the first official immunity challenger vote. Mm-hmm. So like in my mind, that's the first episode. But yeah, it is what it is. Who is Smuggle Snuggles? Oh, is that Lisa?
Yeah.
I love Lisa, by the way.
Shout out to Lisa.
Lisa is the person I'm most upset that I quit season 3 because of, not because of, but Lisa is the person I'm most upset I didn't get to play with because I quit season 3. Mm-hmm. Like just having talked to her since the game, I don't necessarily know that was something I was super upset about in the moment, but like now looking back, I'm super upset that I didn't play season 3 just because like I don't know if Lisa will play again. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to ever play with Lisa.
You never know.
You never know, but like season 3, it was like a bummer that like now it's a bummer that I didn't, because season 3 and like the other stuff too is that so season 3 is cast and Sam is on the cast. Mm-hmm. And at a certain point Sam decides she doesn't want to play. We don't include Sam on the cast though, because Sam quits before the first reward challenge. And Sam gets a replacement. That's always Gabe's other rebuttal, is that McKenna comes in to replace Sam. Oh, I love her. So I basically begged McKenna to play. I also convinced Leslie to play too. Leslie was on the Fans Tribe for that season. So it's really funny because I convinced 2 people to play the season only for me to quit right before it starts. Right before the first like official vote and episode. But within that, in those first few days leading up to the first episode, there's an alliance that's created of basically the Threat Alliance. Like we called ourselves the Big Threat, the Big Shield Alliance of It was 2 people that only played season 1, 2 people who only played season 2, and then Nick and Maggie, the 2 people who had played both seasons. So it was me and Gabe to represent season 1, Maggie and Nick to represent both, and then Lisa and Jesse, who were the threats of season 2, like the bigger players that were on the cast. So that was the 6, and it kind of left the other 5 out. And I was excited to play with some of those. I wasn't super thrilled, obviously, to play with Maggie. Like there's still some like a lot of distrust from season 1, and I'm hearing super early on that Maggie wants me to be first boot regardless of this like 6-person alliance. Like I'm hearing my name is being floated around as first boot and everything like that. So
one of the things that I have here in the stats, what was your reaction to seeing Gabe play again season 3? And also, do you think honestly that you would have been first boot had your tribe lost?
No? So seeing Gabe, so let me start with that one. Seeing Gabe, it wasn't like a big deal to me. Like I wasn't against playing with Gabe. I wasn't like not necessarily like jumping up and down to play with Gabe either though. So like I was kind of more indifferent to Gabe. I'm like, all right, Gabe won. He's a threat that I need to like look out for at some point, but like I'm not gonna target Gabe right away. So the story of why I don't think I would have been first boot. So I do hear my name going around, and about 3-4 hours before the first episode is supposed to start, Gabe messages me and says, I need you to call me a half hour before the episode starts. And at this point, the personal life thing that made me quit season 3 is just about to like start happening. So like I tell him, okay, cool. Like, yeah, we'll see if I can. And then I'm just plugging in my computer really quick, grabbing the charger. So and then the thing in my life happens, and I have to tell Corey that I have to quit. Like I just can't handle the stress of the thing happening in life plus the game. And he says, I understand. I hope everything's okay. And I pull myself from the game. And I tell Gabe, and I'm like, look, I was probably going to be first boot anyway, because I know Maggie was like rallying the troops, and no one was really like telling me they weren't going to vote for me. And that's when Gabe says, no, the reason I wanted to call you a half hour before the episode was to tell you we're going to vote out Maggie if we lose. Gabe was going to flip it back on against Maggie had we lost, or at least that was going to be the plan to try to do. So that's why I don't think I would have been first boot. I also think my tribe would have just won out until the swap. Just looking at how that season goes, the favorites win the first challenge. I assume if I'm there, we still win the first challenge. Like I don't think me being on the tribe is going to make us lose. Yeah, Lisa would have voted Maggie out. Cool. So I don't think me being on the tribe would have made us lose. And then they lose the second challenge because Derek isn't there to participate. Derek isn't there to like, he had like, it was like a scavenger hunt that each member had to like send something, and Derek wasn't around to send his photo of whatever he needed to find. And had I been there, the favorites would have had a one person above the favorites. Like it would have been 11-10. And we could have sat Derek out of that challenge. And it's likely that we win if I'm playing and not Derek. Because it's more likely that I can find the thing that Derek couldn't. Or that Derek just wasn't around to find. And that's the only challenge that the favorites lost before a swap. So no, I don't think they're. I'm still might have potentially been the first favorite vote out of the game, but it wouldn't have been on the favorites tribe. Yeah, only lost 2 tribals, and that's not even losing a tribal. Me quitting. Like we only lost 2 people, and one of them was me quitting. The other one was Derek not showing up and getting banned or getting voted out or whatever.
Looking back to you not being able to play for personal reasons, season 3, Amanda kind of had a similar thing that she kind of dropped out, but then she came back in. Had she not played, she eventually becomes the winner of season 6. What are your thoughts on your chances of actually making it really far or potentially winning that season? Is that something that crosses through your head, or have you just like, nah, I wouldn't have won, or, you know?
Season 3, I don't think about a lot. Like that season is so wild and like unpredictable at that point of like who would have guessed that Bo has a super idol. Like there's just so many little aspects that, and anyone who like stays up on Zoom sometimes, like at any point in time ever, knows sometimes we get into all these hypothetical what ifs, and I'm sure there was a hypothetical what if rabbit hole we went down one night of what if Austin doesn't quit season 3, what happens? And we just never, like, I don't, season 3 is not, out of all the times that I've played, season 3 is not the one that I think what if could I have won. Season 3 is like the one season where I'm like, I was never winning that season because I wasn't there to play. There's just so many unknown factors to have to go, because that's 22 people to then have to think through. So I have no idea if I could have won season 3. What's unfortunate is that like Leslie still ends up getting targeted because she's associated with me, even though I'm not even in the game anymore. Like that kind of like what sucks is that like people still, because of their association with me, ended up at some point going. I am proud of myself that like in season 3, on my way out, I told like McKenna and Jesse, I told them to like link up, and they managed to get all the way to like final 6 together. And like I was talking to Gabe during season 3, like while he was playing after he was voted out, and I was like trying to like get a sense of like, did people know McKenna and Jesse were a duo in season 3? And as far as like from Gabe's perspective, it's I think that's in reference to the Leslie thing. And I know there were other reasons. Like there's also Leslie was connected to Eric Steeper, who rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and she gets targeted for that connection too. But I know Leslie, because of mine and Leslie's relationship of how she likes to pick on me, she likes to say it's because of me. But yeah, I think McKenna and Jesse managed to get very deep in the game without people knowing they were as tight of a duo as they were. And the reason they're as tight as they are is partially, not completely, I'm not going to take full credit for it, but partially me on my way out saying, like, you two connect. Like, McKenna, connect with him. I told McKenna to also connect with, like, Leslie if they were able to get in a swap together, but that didn't happen.
So that was the last season you played after a while, because then there was, like, 2 seasons, Season 4, Season 5. For Season 6 is All-Stars. Do you get an invitation, or do you try to like get Corey be like, hey, technically I didn't play on season 3 because I had an emergency.
Yeah.
Should I be considered for season 6?
I think I get an invite. I think my season, like regardless, my season 1 game is like good enough. Like I'm the golden boy of season 1. I'm the golden boy of season 1. Like I'm the guy that if I can win out or if I get to the end, I'm going to win. Like that's what the whole jury says. So I feel like, and I don't like sounding cocky or full of myself, but I feel like I was a lock to be in All-Stars. So yeah, I got an invite and I was like, yeah, I'm going to play.
And talk to me about, because there has been like, from season 3, you kind of have that time off all of season 3, season 4, and season 5 to kind of like get to know different players that are eventually going to be on season 6 that were on season 5, making those connections. Was there a lot of pre-gaming for you? Well, actually, I do know this, but for people who not know this, tell me how that goes for you, and eventually like what happens to you on season 6.
There's definitely a ton of pre-gaming for season 6. And there's pre-gaming with people that don't even end up being on the cast, because it's like, so there's a rumored cast list that goes out at one point, and so obviously that's the cast list people start to like pre-game with, and people that end up like getting snubbed or like cut last minute or not included, like a Gabe or not Gabe, sorry, like a Nick, who like everyone is like sure is a lock, and then for reasons gets cut. People think obviously the winner of season 4 has to be there, right? Like Emma's gonna be there. Like any winner that will say yes is gonna be there. And then like Emma and Jesse aren't allowed to play for that whole scandal that comes out. So yeah, there's pre-gaming. My main pre-game was with and that's the thing. It's like Lisa's such a big name that like people assume like Lisa's there. Of course Lisa's there. Why wouldn't she be? so there's a ton of pre-gaming. Some of it's real, some of it's not. Some of it's just to cover your ass. Some of it's like, I pre-gamed with probably almost every single person in season 6, and I don't know that necessarily. The issue was I pre-gamed with the wrong people because I didn't pre-game with everyone, and the people I didn't pre-game with are the ones that I end up on a tribe with. Because my main pre-game crew is a group called the LNC. Yes, we took the name from Big Brother for Big Brother fans. McKenna only recently found out that we took the name from Big Brother. But there's the whole, and it happens in season 10, and we'll get to it in season 10, but in season 6, it's the Secret Hitler Alliance. Like, it's the group of people who formed a group chat and they play Secret Hitler at night. Like, that's the people that are in Alliance. That's the group that we have to target. And, like, that's partially true. But, like, it was not all of us. Like, the LNC is a group of people who, yes, played those games, but then we're also the people who are crazy and didn't go to bed until, like, 3 a.m. So that's, like, that group is myself, McKenna, Abby, Alan, and Gabe. That's the 5-person alliance that I'm in going into season 6. And we meet every night. When everyone else is done playing games, we stick around. We do little video calls, like we talk, and we plan like who we're each going to be more connected to. Like we share notes, like we compare notes a lot. And lo and behold, Corey does the cast reveal. Corey does the tribe divisions. He reveals what tribe everyone's on. McKenna, Alan, Abby, Gabe, you're all on Food Chow. Austin, have fun on Fang Song without your entire alliance. And that season was not gonna. That didn't bode well for me. Like, I was lucky enough to have the beautiful shield of Maggie. And honestly, I still go back to it, and I'm like, I wish I would have kept her. Mm-hmm. Like, I wish we didn't vote out Maggie at the first tribal we went to, because I think keeping me working with Maggie probably saves me for a bit. But it just was not possible to do. I basically, Vampatella becomes my ride or die because, and this might be giving away something for people who play with me in the future, but 9 times out of 10, my ride or die is going to be someone from my original tribe. No matter what pre-gaming I've done, my ride or die is 9 times out of 10 someone that I like start the game with. And in season 6, that was Vampatella. Now, had I linked back up with my LNC group, it would have been complicated. I would have tried to keep all parties as much as I could. Like, specifically, like going in, my ideal final 3 was me, McKenna, Abby out of that LNC group. But it would have been rough to vote out Vampatella. So, like, there's a lot of mixing that I don't honestly know, and it's kind of like I'm thankful I was eliminated from All Stars as early as it was because I didn't have to make those decisions. Like, still heartbroken and upset that I have not really gotten a chance to play Corey's org with McKenna. But it would have been so hard to really navigate that if those two like collided. But like the good news is if I wanted to play with Vampatella, then the next best person to also be like one of my ride or dies is McKenna, because McKenna's also never turning on Vampatella. But yeah, so Vampatella was my ride or die, and then I was also very close to Amy on Fang Song. Just me and Amy even like really started to connect in those first few days of season 3. And I was actually like, like I liked the threat alliance in season 3 of like, these are shields for me, this is good. But I had better relationships with like everyone not in that group. Like, besides Amanda and Derek, like I was obviously McKenna's not in that group, and I convinced her to play. Amy's not in that group, but like me and her hitting off really well. So like there are these people not in the Threat Alliance that I really like and I really want to play with. So like the fact that I was then with Amy on season 6, I was like, we can do it now. I'm like, we didn't really play together in season 1. We started to kind of talk in season 3, but it didn't pan out. Like, we can do it now. Like, this is going to be fun. Like, I'm excited. And I could tell it was a different Amy. Like, I knew this was not the Amy who played season 1 and season 3. and that got me excited. Like Amy was like gaming big time. And she was someone that I talked to like every single day. Like me and her called, like we video chatted. I'd like say hi to her son like while he's running around. Like her son's like the most adorable little kid. But like me and Amy are talking, and I start to talk to Maggie more and more on Fang Song. And I think Maggie realizes she's in a minority potentially here. I had always viewed it as when the tribes were divided, this tribe was split 6-6. I felt like I could get myself, Vamp, Amy, Mariah, Kayla, and Christina together. I felt like that would be a 6, and then the other 6 would be like Stacy, Rachel, JP, Maggie, Jeff, and Bo. So I went into that tribe like I'm not totally screwed. I was like, there's other people that could be on Fu Chao and other Fu Chaos that could be here where I feel like I would be in a worse position. Like literally just switch like a Vampatella and a Chris C, Chris C's gonna work with Bo for sure. Switch switch like a Jarrett for someone who I don't really have a relationship with. Just these little things that like of people I don't necessarily have a connection to. Put Amanda Myers on my tribe. Like I don't have like she's one of the people I did not pregame with. So like there were definitely people that could have also been on Fang Song that would have made it worse for me. Mm-hmm. So I viewed it as a dead tie at the start. And luckily Mariah has a good relationship with JP, is able to kind of like get him to either throw his vote away or vote with us. Kayla has a decent relationship with like Stacy, and Stacy has a good relationship with Rachel to kind of form something together here. And that's, I think there's a certain point in time where Maggie does, because Maggie's great. Like Maggie is a great player. She is perceptive. She does get that sense, and she can feel it out. So I feel like Maggie kind of realized that the votes might not be going her way. And she does make an effort to try to like game with me and play with me. And honestly, when I'm talking to Maggie one-on-one, season 1's always in the back of my head of that 2-hour conversation. I'm like, I'm never going to fully trust you. I was like, you duped me too hard in season 1. Like, I'm never going to be like 100% with you here. But the things she was saying were making sense. Mm-hmm. And like, I see the benefit of keeping a player like Maggie in the game for me. Because I know people want her out. And if me and Maggie can actually somehow mend the fence and like work together, like that could be scary for other players. But the thing is that between Vamp and Amy, they were just who I felt safer with, felt more loyal to. And every time, and that was the thing, is that Maggie always wanted to do it with Amy too. Like me and Maggie would talk, and then she would want to pull in Amy. Like that was always the third in her mind of like, let's get us 3 season 1 people together to like do something. And every single time me and Maggie would talk, I would feel really good about it. We'd pull Amy in, we'd talk, it'd still be a really good conversation. We would all hang up, and Amy would call me and be like, we're not actually doing that, right? Like Amy was never working with Maggie that season. Like she shut it down immediately every single time. So there was never any world in which I could have worked with Maggie if I wanted to. Like if I wanted to still keep my relationship with Amy, if I wanted to still keep my relationship with Vamptel, like there was no world in which I was flipping them to go work with Maggie too. So we go ahead and we vote out Maggie. One of my all-time favorite moments that was not captured on camera is Alan celebrating Maggie's vote out.
Can you reenact it?
No, I can't, because it was just so beautiful.
Can you describe it?
Yes, I can describe it. So they go to the first tribal and they vote out LJ. And then we lose in a tiebreaker. We lose in a tiebreaker that shouldn't have been the tiebreaker. Basically, it's the infamous Instagram challenge, in which Corey says there's if both tribes find all the people, then there will be a tiebreaker. And Gabe, being Gabe, was also like, Corey hates a timed tiebreaker, so it's definitely not going to be whichever tribe finishes first. So like there was no real like worry that like we had to like rush on it. Like it was a 24-hour challenge. Whoever had the most by the end of 24 hours wins. And if both tribes get all of them, then there's a tiebreaker. There was never any indication that it was the first tribe to finish wins. But that was the tiebreaker. Was that the first tribe to finish would win. And so we lose that challenge. Sorry, no, the Instagram challenge is the one that I go out on. So that's actually a few tribals away. But we lose some other challenge because they got an advantage from like someone getting fire tokens or something. And they just it was a challenge where like both tribes were going to basically score all the points. I don't know if you've done this challenge, but he's done it multiple seasons where he'll name a challenge and you have to say what season it was on. Like he'll name a challenge and you have to say who won it or something. He'll name the challenge and the season it was on, and you have to tell him who won it.
No, I don't think he's done it.
Okay. He's definitely done it again. I just don't know because I've done that challenge more than once. So, or I've seen it done more than once. I feel like I've played it more than once. So I feel like I thought it had to have been on either 9 or 10 because those were the only other seasons I played. And you were there for both of those.
Yeah.
I think it was a tribal challenge of one of those seasons, though. It was early.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a tribal challenge, and like the 1 point advantage that they had was enough to win it for them, just because they were neither of us were getting them wrong. Or like I think both of us got one wrong, and the other team was able to steal in both times the other team stole. So we just never were able to make that comeback. But he keeps everyone in the main game or in the main room except for Fang Song, moves us all to the Fang Song Tribal Council. We all vote out Maggie. It goes off without a hitch. It's wonderful. Maggie's people even vote for Rachel, which was even more shocking to me. Like I was not expecting, like I was fully expecting votes to come to like me or a Mariah or someone like that was like a bigger, like, because at that point Rachel had done well in season 5, but she's still underrated at that point, and not necessarily seen for the threat she can be. So I'm expecting a big name to be who their votes are going on. But we get back, we start coming in, and you've been in those Zooms, and anyone who's played Corey's like the Zoom of like when people come back from a breakout room, they like trickle in. So we get in and everyone's there, and Corey's like, the second person voted out of Survivor, Corey's Org All-Stars is Maggie, and Alan lets out the biggest, loudest, highest pitched I've ever heard Alan's voice of a what? And it is the funniest. It's still to this day like one of my favorite memories, one of the funniest moments I've witnessed in the org. And it's so good. It's such a good moment. And what sucks is that when you go into a breakout room, it makes you shut off the it makes you stop the live.
Mm-hmm.
So when he made that breakout room, the live stream ended. I don't even think he realized it ended. So then he had to re-go live and reveal it again. And that second time, Alan didn't bring the same level of energy or surprise that he brought the first time. So it's a little gem of comedy that only the top 20 of All-Stars know about, or the top 22.
One of those moments that you had to be there to actually witness it.
Yeah, it's such a good moment. It's still one of my favorites. But yeah, I totally should have done that, because then the infamous Instagram challenge where it's a time tiebreaker. This is where I want to give total props to Christina Nash for the amazing player she is. So very early on in Fang Song, Jeff Wins seems to at least from the people that are talking to me, Jeff Wins is rubbing people the wrong way. And so we have this alliance of people who voted out Maggie together that I'm like, let's just stick to it. Jeff Wins is in this alliance. He's getting on people's nerves anyway, making group chats that people like that. Like the stories I'm being told is like, Jeff Wins added me to alliance and didn't even ask me if I wanted to be in it. Like
he
that
was in your tribe?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was like on the Maggie side of my tribe. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, all right, Jeff Wins is an easy vote. Let's just do it. And the day of my tribal council, so this is also something that I miss from Corey's org of like, now we do it where it's like, as soon as challenge is over, you're voting someone out.
Mhm.
Like my particular tribal and a couple of the tribals in season 6 were, all right, this is the tribe that won the challenge. You guys have until tomorrow, and we'll do tribal tomorrow.
Mhm.
So you have time to strategize after a loss. And what I'm unaware of is that entire day is Christina Nash slowly turning people
Orchestrating
to
your
get me
vote
out. And it's so quiet. That whole day is so quiet. And like that does at first worry me and starts to give me like that it's quiet paranoia, so it's probably me. But what Christina Nash does, and it's one of the single greatest moves that I have ever personally witnessed in Corey's org, is she comes to me unprompted and asks me, has it been quiet for you today? That one statement eases all of my stress. Because I'm like, okay, it's not just me. It's quiet for everyone. So this vote's going to be fine. Like Jeff's done. Like it's going to be okay. And I know this is one of Rachel's questions that she put on the advertisement for this interview. It was a blindside. I had no idea. Zero inclination in my mind by the time we get to tribal, except for the like I said, there's always, I don't think you're a good player if you go into any tribal and you feel 100% certain if you're not immune. Like if you're not immune or you're not playing IO, like you should always have like these, even if it's this much, you should always have some level of paranoia that you're going. Your heart should be racing a little bit. So besides that stress, and also, and this is another funny moment from 6, is in the main chat that both alliances are in,
Mhm.
JP sends in his vote to vote out Jeff Wins in the main chat. He sends a message of, sorry, Jeff, in the main chat. And so the whole other tribe now thinks Jeff Wins got voted out. But then Corey reads the votes, and it's the only people who voted with me were me. It was me, Mariah, and Justin. Everyone else in the tribe voted me out, including like my ride or die Vampatella here and the Amy who I trusted like totally. So it was so I'm out, and the first thing I do is I text McKenna. And like, yeah, you're not supposed to talk to the other tribe, but like at that point, I was just in such a state of shock. I needed to talk to a friend about it. I text McKenna. I'm like, I'm out, and she said, "Haha, funny. I saw what JP said." And I'm like, no, McKenna, that was his vote. Like he sent his vote to the wrong place. I'm out, and I FaceTime her so she knows I'm serious. And she's like, "Oh my god." And she's like, "Oh my," and she's like, "Oh wait, Corey's calling us in. Are you like She's like, "You're serious right now?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm out. I'm on Herzog. I'm on Herzog Island." I'm like, "I'm done for. Like, I'm out." And she like, it was a shock to them too, because JP sends his vote, and the way JP phrased it was like, "Sorry, Jeff."
Mhm.
Like in that mindset, like obviously that whole tribe thinks Jeff's gone because he just apologized. But yeah, I mean, I never gave up. Like season 6, I'm still on Herzog Island. I'm still solving riddles. And fun fact for you, Ed, this is gonna surprise you. I sucked at riddles in season 6. I solved 2 all season.
What?
I only solved like 2 riddles all season. And I got like a fire token, and then when I was on Herzog Island, I got a fire token that I could send into the game, and I sent it to Abby. Like I'm still trying to help out people that I want to work with if I get back in, but I do think I maybe solved 1 more, and I sent a fire token to Garrett. That might be wrong, or I think someone else. No, actually, I think what happened was someone else solved a riddle and told me they sent their token to Garrett, and I lied to Garrett and said that I sent it to him. I like sent him like a winky face when someone else told me they just sent a token to Garrett. I sent him a winky face, so he thought that I sent it. But it wasn't actually me. But I knew that like I had known at that point that just because, and like, yes, you're not supposed to, but we're still playing games at night, and so every so often game talk slips out. So like I know who's working with who on Food Chow at that point. So I know Garrett's now in with my LNC crew. So of course I'm trying to like butter up to Garrett if I get back in, and I'm like, here, let me back into the fold too. Like, please don't fully take my spot in my alliance, please. So I tried. I do get, here's another one of my advantages to add to the list. It gets to a point where the players in the game, when it's time for the Herzog Island like battle back, the players in the game got to vote to give an advantage to someone in the game or on Herzog Island in that comeback challenge. And I did get the majority of the votes for the advantage, so I did get a advantage to skip one of the levels in that, but it wasn't enough to beat Martin, who's insane.
So you end up being runner-up to getting back into the game.
Runner-up. I lose by like it's insane because I lose by one. I beat Vampatella was in the lead until I went, so it wasn't something we all did at once. It was Corey scheduled like sessions that you could do it in, and I was in the second to last session. It was just me and LJ in my session, and I think LJ was still on like the second level when I finished. And it was only 3 levels, but like level 1 had like 2 parts to it, so it was kind of like 4 levels, I would say. But I only beat Vampatella by 1 minute. And had I not gotten my advantage, I lose to Vampatella too, because Corey did send me the part that I got to skip, and it would have taken me more than a minute to solve. But Martin beat me by like 13 minutes. Whoa. Like it wasn't even close. So yeah, it was heartbreaking. I will say that's one of like my lowest moments in Corey's org is not winning that comeback challenge, because I was just so devastated not get to go back and play with my friends. Because like Alan was out at that point, so like I wasn't gonna get to play with Alan, but like my other friends are still in the game. And it's not, Vampatella's out too at that point, but I was like cool with it because I got to give him some shit for voting me out when he got there. I'm like, look, if you would have kept me, you probably might still be in that game. And he always, like, to this day, he's like, yeah, I know. He's blamed it on like work. I don't know if this is true, and like Christina Nash and I have talked about it, she doesn't think it's true, or like some people just don't think that like he would have had the sway to do it, but he claims that if he didn't work that day, he would have tried to like push back on it and not let Christina flip it. But like they were still gonna flip. But I think he has since told me that he wanted more so maybe to flip it on Mariah at that vote. But Christina wanted it to be me. And the whole day he's at work, Christina's recruiting people to vote me out. And by the time he gets off work, he doesn't have time to try to undo all that and flip it to Mariah or anyone at that point. So it's just, I would have liked the heads up. I mean, I know people are always scared of an idol, but like at least from Vampatella's like end, Vampatella telling me Vampatella's safe. So, and he could have easily blamed it on someone else that they told me or spilled the beans, but yeah, it was tough to not get back into season 6 and season 6 was also so long that then I spent like another like 2 months just watching my friends play and hoping that they make it far. So yeah, season 6 is the maybe the season I'm the most like sad about. It's not necessarily the one that I like replay in my mind of like, had I gotten back in, how does it go? Do I win? Like those are more seasons 9 and 10 that I play in my head of like, if this one thing goes different, then I can win the game type deal. But not season 6. Season 6 is like, I'm sad about it. Like I'm mostly sad that I didn't get to play with my friends. That I was put on a tribe separate from my friends and I didn't get to play with them.
Speaking of that, kind of want to do like a 180 spin on that. Had you survived and you would have been with your friends and you guys would have lost tribal after tribal, tell me how much would that had affected you trying to vote out your friends, turning on each other?
So are you saying like, had I been like put on Food Chow, basically? Like if I start the game on Fuchao and Fuchao loses like tribal after tribal after tribal.
Mhm.
I mean, it depends. It's not like I said, there were people on Fuchao that had I been on there, we would have just gotten rid of them.
Mhm.
Like not necessarily like not criticizing any of these players, but like in my mind at that point in time, like Jarrett, LJ, Chris C, like all these people were gonna just be easy boots on Fuchao that we could have just picked off anyway. So I don't necessarily know. And at that point, I wasn't super close to any of them. So like there were still people that weren't my friends on that tribe that we could have voted out. Yes, but had I won my way back in and now we're in a merge, if like theoretically like Alan, Gabe, McKenna, Abby, Vamptella, Amy, like these people that I like and want to play with, Bianca at that point I had started to like talk a little bit more to, and I really started like her a lot. Had it gotten deep into that, like then it would have been hard. But I think honestly, I still stick to like wanting to go with McKenna or Abby or like the LNC or at that point maybe Vampatella still. So like it sucks to vote them out, but it's, and I hate saying this because it sounds mean, but like it's a game, so like it's not meaning to be mean, but like at that point in time, it's easier to vote out a Gabe than to vote out a McKenna.
Yeah.
And that's how I reconcile it. Is like, yeah, I would be sad and it would suck, but I would do it because it's not doing the other less pleasant option.
For sure.
So yeah, and also I had the mindset too. Sorry, I had the mindset too that even if I win the comeback challenge in season 6, I'm still not winning that game. Because this is after like a Edge of Extinction anyway, so it's like
people
are so upset about the Chris Underwood win that like I'm like I got voted out too. Like no one's gonna vote for the person who was voted out to win. Like I knew that if I wanted to win, I would have had to come back and like win every challenge or play like a million idols and Bo's there, so I'm not even gonna get the idols anyway. Like I would have had to just like literally control every single vote from the time I got back into the end, and that wasn't gonna happen either. I would have played my ass off. I would have tried, but it would have been tough to win that season anyway.
You've spoken about how it was one of your lowest lows, season 6, but is there anything like at all like positive that you take away from season 6?
I would say the positive is more of like a personal positive. I think season 6 and the pregame of that and just other things that happen, whether it be personal life or not, in season 6, just other things in my life happening around there. Like that's really when I got close to a lot of really good friends. That's where like, I mean, leading into season 6 is already like McKenna's getting the bestie title that like puts a target on us in season 6 because I'm so public about like our friendship. But like me and Alan really connect and talk personal life and game and stuff, and I really enjoy talking to him, and I still consider him a good friend. Me and Abby get really close. I meet Garrett. Like there's a lot of people that like I got really close to. Me and Mariah connected in that game, but also after that game, and me being like more just like apologetic that I didn't trust her more than the people who voted me out type deal. So there's just people in that game that like from the game or like from the pregame of the game, I just got a lot closer to than I was before, and like now they're some of my best friends in life. So I think that's like the positive out of season 6 is I feel like that's one of the seasons. I feel like that's one of the seasons where I really connected with people and got really good friendships out of it.
So after season 6, Corey returns for a newbie season, but not really. But no one's eligible to come back until season 9, which is a 2-day season, Elimination Island. What is your thought process? Do you immediately, I want to go back? Are you hesitant? What is it? How do you go about it? Because I know some of it because I was one of the first people, well, not the first, but at the very beginning, because this happened before you were talking to me about season 9. But what were your thoughts going into season 9 after All Stars?
All right, let me try to mentally put myself into that timeline. So yeah, Alan, you know me. We're best friends. You know, best friends. No. So season 9. At this point in time, and this is even like now at this point in time, I've met some of these people in real life too. I've met Nick in real life at this point, but no one else in season 10 had I met. In season 9, I mean, had I met in real life because like McKenna and that's by that point in time I had met Garrett, McKenna, Sam, Abby, and Garrett, and Nick. Only Nick's playing, but like during that meetup, there's this idea of like the next time we play together, me, Nick, and McKenna are going to be a final 3. And we know McKenna's not playing 9, but we think she might be playing 10. So me and Nick kind of go into 9 of just like more so season 9, me and Nick are a lot more casual of like an alliance. Where me and Nick didn't really pregame a ton of 9. We kind of just had this like understand that like we want to play together in 10. So like we don't necessarily want to. Me and Nick had this whole plan of like at some point one of us is gonna vote the other out of 9. Like whichever one feels like they have the better shot of winning, we'll vote the other one out just to like kind of like create a blind side that we can use in season 10 to be like I'm still mad at them for voting me out of 9. Blah blah blah. But my mindset going into 9, and I obviously I didn't do this. Because I told you what my mindset was and then completely didn't do it. And I told you like while I was not doing it that I'm like, yeah, Ed, remember when I said I was going to do this? Yeah, that totally didn't happen. Because I did, honestly, like, I did feel like going into 9, you were probably one of my closest allies. But I also knew you were also one of my biggest threats. Because I feel like I felt like me and you were doing a lot of the same type of pregame. At least from like what I was hearing from other people, was like everyone is telling me they love Ed. Everyone's telling me they like Ed.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah.
Maybe it felt that way is because I had just played season 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person that I connected the most was from season 8 was Matt.
Yeah.
And Matt was speaking, and I was almost speaking on your behalf because you were my number 1 at the beginning. You told me, are you playing? I wasn't sure. And at that point, when you told me that, I was like, well, I guess if Austin's playing. And I think we had done a challenge for season 8, like a mock trivia challenge. And we ended up going against each other for like the challenge. We were a team. Yeah. We were a team, and we actually won. And then we had to go against each other. So at that point, I was like, I would love to play with Austin. And when you said like, would you be down to play? Jeremy is potentially playing, and so is Dylan and Parker and all that stuff. That just solidified that for me. So my approach was to kind of like talk to the people that I knew so that we were covered. And you expressed yourself that you didn't want to do too much pre-gaming because of season 6. And I got that. And then, so for me, a lot of it, I was put onto like this alliances without me necessarily asking to be. I just talked to people, and people assumed that I was going to play with them. And what bit me in the ass was that I promised a lot of stuff to people, and I ended up being in a lot of alliances, and I did not, unfortunately, I could not take 7 people to the end, but I do think that at the beginning, I had you as like one of my closest allies, and then Keanu decides to play.
and I genuinely did feel the same about you. I mean, you were probably my 2 or 3. Like, and I mean, I didn't expect it, but just my first conversation with Parker, I'm just like, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy that I'm going to the end with this one. Like, this guy's like, I knew in my heart of hearts there was 0% chance I could ever bring myself to write his name down at a tribal council. So like that was what in my mind made it to be like, well, Parker has to be my or die because I'm not going to vote him out. Like I won't, like he was just so nice, so sweet, like such a great guy that it wasn't going to happen. And like, and I feel like that, like what, because then I know like maybe like some of my like closer friends are like, well, wow, that makes me feel like maybe I'm not a good person. It's not that. It's like with people like a Nick, for example, or a Dylan that I've known and I'm like really close to going into that season, like there's that competitive spirit that I have with friends of mine that I'm like, it'd be kind of like cool or fun to vote out you because like we have this competitive like head to head, but it never felt competitive with Parker. Was the issue there. So like before people like start saying like, well, why is it so easy to vote me out, but that's not so hard to vote Parker out? That's why it's like if I'm good friends with you, then I do start to feel that like competitive spirit with like good friends. So yeah, so 9, like you said, I said that I didn't want to pregame as much in 9 as I did in 6. Because I pre-gamed and then it all was for nothing but then I guess what more so started to happen is one, I wanted to get to know some of these people. Like some of these people I was just like, they seem really cool, or like others I was like, I'm scared of you, so I'm just going to talk to you to make sure I'm cool. Like that's my whole first interaction with John Farrell is 100% out of me being terrified of him from season 8. And then I have one conversation with him. I'm like, wow, you're amazing. I'm like, you're awesome. Like we have so much in common of like the theater background and stuff like that. I'm like, I love John Farrell now. But so I think what it was I think I ended up in my mind overcorrecting in a way, but I did it differently in 9 where instead of pre-gaming season 9, I just talked to everyone. Like I just said hi, introduce myself. If they wanted to have more of a conversation, we did, but I tried my best in 9's pregame to not promise people things, which is not what you did, which you have already said. So I tried not to promise people things. I tried to just like talk to people, be like, if we can, cool. Like, and I'm like, it's a 2-day season. I'm like, we'll see. And that was the other part. Was in a 2-day season, a lot of us had said to each other, I don't know how important a social game is going to be, because you can't really have a social game over 2 days. So, but my mindset was the season is 2 days. It's 2 days of us voting for each other and voting each other out. This season has started though. I'm like, no, we're not doing challenges. No, we're not voting people out. Yes, it's still the pregame, but this is the game. This is where the relationships are being formed to move you and progress you through the game. And this is the time for the social game. So when I had originally said to you before cast reveal of, I don't want to pregame this, I meant it. But when the cast is revealed and everyone starts talking more and more about like their theories and their own personal opinions on a 2-day season, my game plan starts to adjust. And I'm like, I don't agree necessarily that social game is going to mean nothing. So let me just make sure everyone likes me, potentially. Like, just in case, like, I do get to the end and I need jury votes and people are... Because another thing, like, to jump back into personal life, that a lot of people know, some people might not. For my undergraduate thesis for college, I wrote a 22-page research paper on Survivor and Survivor strategy and how to use Survivor strategies in an acting career, in like auditions and your work there. But like on the reverse, if you read it as a Survivor fan, it's more of like the most effective strategies and most important things to do to win the game type deal. So you can read it from either perspective. And what I had come as a result of that is social game is the most important part of Survivor. Of like the person who the jury likes and respects the most is always going to win the game. Like, I genuinely do believe that every season of Survivor, the winner is the person in the final 3, not necessarily the person in the entire game, but the person in the final 3 that has the best social game wins every season. I feel like some people, I've had this conversation with some people of like, but what about this season? Like, what about season 30? Like, people don't really like Mike. And I'm like, but people also don't like Carolyn or Will. Like, no, Mike doesn't have a great social game, but he has a better social game than the 2 people he's with.
Yeah.
So that's what I had come down to. And so in my mindset now, if people saying the social game isn't going to matter, I'm like, there's no way that's true. Like, that can't possibly with the research I've done, there's no way that the social game isn't going to matter. I'm like, it's just not possible. So more so my pre-game of 9 was, let me get friends with these people so that in the event I'm in the end and they're really trying to decide between me and Parker, for example, because at a certain point Parker's like my ride or die, and I'm like, gosh, Parker's so likable too, is the other thing. I'm like, let me just maybe try to see if people are going to end up getting to the end and being torn between me and Parker, maybe this one conversation, this one moment where I reached out to you in the pregame, maybe that's going to be enough to get your vote for me to win. And I mean, it does still depend on who I'm staying with, but I do think had I been able to get to the end of 9, I had a really good shot to win that season.
I would say from day one perspective, we went when you were in your tribes and when you lost, because you didn't really lose that many tribals, but no one wrote your name down until day 2.
Correct.
And even then, from my perspective, I always saw someone that I had you top 3, top 4, no matter what. And that was before the wheels set in motion for day 2 to try to take you out. So I feel like you always had a good shot to win there.
I agree. Like this is why when we talked earlier of like, this is why 9 and 10 are more of the seasons that I'm like, because I feel like, and we'll get to 10 in a minute, but like those are the 2 seasons that I still really feel like one or two things go different. Like, and I've theorized this, and it's good to talk to you about it too. But like, me and Jeremy have had a conversation, and it's tricky because there's a lot of variables that play, and we came out to if Jeremy at 7 when I go, if Jeremy plays their idol on me instead of playing it on Keanu, there's still a good chance that then I think it's Miranda. Doesn't Miranda have an idol that she plays on you at that tribal?
Yes.
We think Miranda plays her idol on Keanu because Jeremy didn't. And Miranda knows that we're voting Keanu because I didn't know Miranda was like with y'all. So she's included that. But at that point I'm safe. And I think I'm trying to remember now. It's like a little longer than I'm trying to remember if
maybe there's a revote.
No, I think there's votes on you.
No, I went that season without receiving one single vote.
Okay. There were supposed to be votes on you. That was
that's
the thing. So here's the thing. I think if Jeremy plays their idol on me, then I think Jeremy also votes with us, which means there is a vote on you. Because I think Jeremy was supposed to vote for you. Because we wanted to split the votes between you and Keanu. So I think hypothetically that and who knows, Miranda could play an idol on Keanu and then Keanu plays one of his 2 on you that he has. And then maybe there is a revote there. And I don't quite remember. I think Miranda was immune at that tribal. But
John goes.
John probably goes. Yeah. That's the hypothetical, is that John goes there. And what I've always like said though is
3-on-3 then.
It's 3-on-3, but when I was playing along on jury with the challenges, the hypothetical scenario is that I win out because when I was playing along, I did have a lot of the Jeopardy answers. John told me one of the challenge that was on Sporkle, I think was one of them. It was a quiz that I have literally done on Sporkle before. So like I'm like I probably win that, and like I think I probably most likely went out. So had Jeremy just played their idol on me, I think I win that season.
I was just gonna add to that. You went from being like the biggest target, like to like the one that we wanted to take out. To that point, it was a better arc for you because on day 2 you were at the bottom, and not only. Also, first of all, you were voted out until final 7, and we targeted you after Nick. Yeah. Like you went to tribals and you still survived. So that alone.
And I totally give all credit to Jeremy on that. Like I feel like Jeremy was my saving grace that season. Jeremy was making sure it wasn't me for as long as possible.
So you had almost like an underdog story, whereas
Yeah.
like John was
And-
great too because he kind of
Mhm.
fell into that. But I feel like I would have respected more your story had I been in the jury. Well, I was in the jury, but if you were on the final three, to me it looks like, well, we decided to take him out, and we couldn't, and
Yeah.
he just won out, and then now he has the best story
And
sitting there.
that's also what I've said is like, because then the argument is, well, you had no control over day 2.
Mhm.
Like why do you deserve the votes then? And I'm like, John, we'll talk about that. I the thing is I don't know that answer, and I'll explain why. But the difference between me and John, because I feel like if I'm in the end, I'm kind of speaking from the John perspective at that point.
Mhm.
I'm kind of speaking more from the underdog role in a way. Of no, I would fully admit I didn't have control over day 2. I was doing what Jeremy told me to do to save my butt, and I do feel like if I'm in the end with Jeremy, I lose. I do think Jeremy wins that season if Jeremy makes it to the end with me, because I honestly couldn't have like rebutted that Jeremy kept me in the game. Like there's zero shot that I could have rebutted that.
Going
Um,
back to a few vote outs before that, something happens at the beginning of day 2.
Oh,
Talk.
hold on. Let me just really quick, because I do want to jump to that. But
Okay.
let me finish this thought of what I would have said that I feel like, because John does get close to winning season 9. And I think what would have set me a step above what John had was the day 1 game. Because John played from the bottom, basically, I think, most of the season, except maybe on his original tribe. Because I know had the swapped Mickey lost a challenge, which we didn't. But had we lost a challenge, John would have gone. It would have been John or Matt. So like from that moment on, John was on the bottom of, and I think maybe John has some power when Robin's in the game, just because I know John and Robin are close, but I don't know that for certain. But I think what sets me different from John is that I can point and be like, every single vote of day 1 that I'm in is me and Nick controlling who goes. And at that point, I'm not sitting with Nick, so I get the credit then. So I think that's what it was set me apart. But yeah, so let's go. Beginning of day 2. And the thing is I opened my mouth too much. And I that started the night before anyway. That was because I think it's some of the stuff I told Keanu in night 2 also, or night 1, like pushes Keanu away a bit. And I don't really have his protection as much anymore. But yes, there is a conversation that I have with Nick where we start to like talk about this alliance that we have going, and who we kind of want to like shape the end game with. And Robin's part of that like 6, and it's so hard that this has gotten so like mixed up, and like even now like the stories are jumbled in my head. But my perspective of that, and like the main like point of like contention is, did Austin say, Robin, you're not going past 6? And in my mind, I did not say that. Yeah. Yes, we have made it to S9, Jeremy. I've already given you a ton of credit. You'll have to rewind to find it. But I had a conversation with Nick, and then I had a conversation with Robin. And in my conversation with Nick, yes, we did say kind of that like 6 is where Robin might need to go. But part of it was also conversations I had with Robin where she flat out said, like in my mind, the timeline of events is that Robin says she is okay with 6th. And then I say, that's kind of where I'm thinking you might end up. So it's like Robin kind of set the trap for me to walk into per se, and I did. So like I'm not ever like denying that I said it, but I think there's a little bit more setup on the Robin end than people are aware of. Whereas I feel like there was like it's like those like cartoons where it's like there's a net with a bunch of like leaves on it, and Robin had set that, and I didn't see it, and I like stepped right in it, and up I went. But that's my like perspective on that story, is that yes, I'm not denying that I said that to Robin. I feel like there was a little bit more of a coaxing or setup from Robin for me to say the words, which then gave Robin the mental clearance to be like, all right, let's flip it on Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be wrong about that. Maybe like that's just the conversation I remember, and maybe that I actually would doubt that was Robin's intention. But like that's kind of how the conversation went. And I feel like the reason I said it is because I feel like I was kind of given permission to say it, if that makes sense.
From my perspective, day 2, I think night of day 1, me, Keanu, and Casey were calling each other, and we were like, Austin is controlling this thing. We need to get rid of him. We have 5 votes, maybe 6. We need 2 more for majority. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we were thinking maybe John Farrell, but I did not trust him for 1 second, and I didn't know if he could like vote with us. So literally day 2, 1 hour before that, and I think Keanu, I don't know if Keanu did something, or I think maybe Bianca orchestrated that because she was working with us. And so all of a sudden Jeremy calls me and he's like, they're like, we're voting Austin. We have the numbers. Dylan's in it. Robin's in it. And I'm just like, what? Okay, cool. Something happened. And I'm glad. And at that point, the whole poll just like, the whole game just changes. And
yeah,
Nick gets taken out. You get targeted. And then like everything just happens. And
yeah,
I would say that
it's totally Jeremy who keeps me in that game.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that
it's also a light beacon in the universe that Nick doesn't win that challenge when he wins the comeback?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's really good that, because I do know that Nick wins that like song identifying challenge that like goes to a tiebreaker. I know for a fact I'm gone. Like Jeremy has flat out told me, yeah, you would have been voted out there if Nick didn't win, but you're lucky Nick didn't win. Or you would have gone if Nick won and Nick didn't go. So, yeah, there's always luck involved in Survivor. Like you can't say there isn't. So I get lucky that like the right people win immunity at the right time, even myself included, winning the Call Me Maybe challenge. Like those little moments that I did win, like winning the Call Me Maybe challenge and being able to like blow up the game, and I blew up the game in the wrong way, but I blew up the game and it was fun. Like that was the thing. I loved season 9 because, and I loved that I got blindsided at the start of day 2. Like I always say, I love that. Like one, it's become like a meme within the org and stuff like that. It's like it's a great moment. But I also just loved that I was free. Like I felt like, even though I didn't make promises per se, I still felt very close. Mm-hmm. And I still was in alliances with a lot of the people left in the game. Like there were little tiny groups. There was like a final 3 of me, you, and
Dylan.
There was a final 3 I had with me, Jeremy, and Noah Morris. That then Noah like left, didn't play the game. Like there were these little groups that I did have like deals with. But there were also just people that I didn't have deals with that I genuinely liked. Like during the game, there's a OG's alliance of me, Nick, Chrissy, and Bianca that forms that I love. And I'm like, this is fun. Like these are fun people. But we get to day 2. And in day 1, I have already crossed off my entire hit list. There's no one left in day 2 that I really want out of the game anymore. Yeah, Gabe. But there's no one left in day 2 that I want out of the game. Like my goal, and I love you, Matt. My goal in season 9 was to get Matt out on day 1, and I did it. And then there was no one else for me to target, it felt like. So the fact that I was then like cut down at the knees at the very first vote of day 2, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be loyal to anyone except Parker now. I'm like, now I literally don't have to, like, nothing I made, no deals I made prior. Nick's gone. Nick voted, me, Nick, and Parker were the only 3 that were together on that vote that Nick goes home on. So like I'm like, now my ride or die stuck with me, which that also is always the best feeling. Like especially after season 6 having Fan Patel eternal me, the fact that Parker didn't, and Parker really truly was always going to go to the end with me that season. Like that was like such a happy feeling to know that. But then also like I was able to play. chaos. Whatever I wanted to do at that point, it didn't matter. I didn't have to honor any commitments I had made or any friendships. Like, it didn't matter anymore.
How different would it have been how we don't
Had
decide to
my-
turn on we don't
Yeah, had
decide
we
to
still
turn on
voted
you?
out John, oh my gosh, I have anxiety that entire day. It's like that's the alternative. Is that because that was my mood going into day 2. I was a ball of stress and anxiety of like, I'm gonna feel so bad. I know what I want to do. I know who I want to get at. I knew I had another boot order. Like, I had the boot order in my mind, but I knew each one progressively was going to get harder and more upsetting and risk friendships potentially. Like, so it was. I was
Because that's
so
how I
tense.
felt.
Yeah,
on
I
season
was
9.
so tense, and for it to then just like Nick gets voted out, and I have that moment of shock where I'm like, heart's beating, like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And then there's like a switch in my head that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're free. Like, everything that you have said to people, it does not matter. You can do what you want now. You get you and Parker as far as you can go, and then especially when Parker is the next vote, I'm messaging all y'all. I don't care. I'm messaging Casey during our potty break of like, what do you want to do, Casey? I'm messaging like everyone of like, what are we going to do?
Especially when you want immunity, you call people.
And I knew I was gonna do that. The second Parker gets voted out, I'm like, let me fucking win immunity. I'm like, let me win one of these things, and I am going off. I was like, I don't care who I go off on, because at that point, it doesn't, like, at that point, it was Jeremy was like trying to save me, and I was trying to work with John. Like, John was like, hey, I know I'm also on the bottom of this other thing going on, so like, if we can get to a point where we can flip to some people, like, that's cool. So then I win immunity, and Jeremy tells me it's John. And I also still don't want to throw Jeremy under the bus. So I just say people. Like, I generalize it. And we hit that tribal, and it's on YouTube. It's in the org page for people to go find. But yeah, we hit that tribal, and I'm no holds barred. I wish, in hindsight, it didn't get pushed on Casey. But it was just, I didn't even necessarily like put it on Casey. Casey was just the most vocal of you season 7 people.
I knew what you were doing, and I wanted to stay out of it. I was trying to be neutral, trying to be like, I was letting you say your piece.
But what I needed to do was not say we have 3 people from season 7. I needed to, I just, it was information I didn't have. I needed to know that you, Miranda, and Keanu were final 3. That's what I needed to know. If I have that piece of information and I say it, the whole game is different now. Like, if that, and maybe not, maybe Jeremy and Dylan still fully believe that you and Keanu are a final 4 with them. Like, maybe they're still super gung-ho on that, but it's like, had I had that piece of information, maybe even then at that vote, instead of including Miranda, we include Casey. And then now there is no information like spilling out in ways that maybe it was. Maybe we do manage to get a target on you or Keanu there instead of Casey. But yeah, what happened there was I wanted to save John. I wanted some chaos to happen. And I accomplished that. I accomplished my 2 goals. Chaos happened. John didn't go. And Kelly Wentworth showed up to relieve all the stress. But yeah, because I really, I feel like in the moment and a little bit after, it did kind of feel like Austin versus Casey, which is, yes, what it turned into. But if you watch that video, that is not what I started off at. It's not like I come in, I'm like, I don't want John to go, we need to vote out Casey. I'm like, I don't want John to go. And someone's like, well, what do you suggest? And I'm like, well, I think there's 3 people from season 7. And Casey's the one who decides to rebuttal me. And so, like, the same thing happens if Keanu starts to rebuttal me, but Keanu probably does it more effectively than Casey because Keanu's Keanu, and he's ridiculous.
I think what happened was the fact that I feel like Keanu was very well connected, and so was I, because I feel like Nick was the same thing. He's like, he even said that, so, oh, why wasn't it like Ed or Keanu? And I think he said something about, like, well, Ed was more connected, but you're more well-liked. And he did actually manage to make a lot of, like, social connections, like you said. Like, he got really close with Bianca. on that season, and I didn't even know that. Like, he told me that Bianca didn't trust me, and I feel like because I blindsided her, and I literally told her, like, she asked me, "Am I getting voted off?" And I didn't. I lied to her. I can't remember, or I didn't give her a straight answer, and I feel like she carried that to season 10, and I try to mend that, but definitely Casey was the one that
season 9 is something that really does end up bonding me close to Bianca and 10. Is that like, so me and Bianca are like, yeah, we're good, we're cool, and then like we vote against each other at a vote, but neither of us goes, and then we're like, all right, well, why do we just vote for each other? Let's clear the air. And then that very next round we still vote Bianca because I couldn't flip anything, and I'm like, well, I just need to survive, and Jeremy's telling me it's Bianca, so it's Bianca. So like that made me feel really bad, like with Bianca, of like we were like, all right, we're gonna bury this and move forward, and then we still had to go at each other. We still didn't get to work together. So I think that's something that, like, flash forward to season 10, I think that's also something that made me really want to work with Bianca. But in that blow up, I do think one thing that Casey gets defensive about is there's a point in time, because I do say the thing of like, there's 3 season 7 people, and then it's still quiet. Like, no one really like bites, no one really like moves forward. And then I feel like I know what he's talking about. I think there's a Zoom call when I'm on Herzog, so like this is like against the rules that I did, but oh well. There was a Zoom call in season 6 that Bianca was there, and it was more so just a thing of like me telling Bianca that if I get back in the game, I would really like to get to know her and work with her. That's what Gabe's talking about for that season 6 convo. But I feel like I have to throw something out there in that blow up of that Final 9 tribal. And so I talk about when Casey approached me for a Final 3 of me, him, and Keanu, because I knew that would get to you. I knew that would get under your skin.
It did in a way, but it wasn't necessarily what you said. My
girlfriend's here,
because like I didn't. Hey Ingrid, shout out to Ingrid. She's watching. It didn't get to me in the sense that I didn't care that he pregame, because I pregame without him. He was kind of like Keanu and Casey were my second alliance, just in case I needed another one. My first alliance was you, Jeremy, Dylan, and Parker. I was true to the Elsa chat.
The Elsa chat, the first chat.
Love you, Ingrid. Just responded to what she's saying.
What was it? It was the 5 spirits.
The 5 spirits.
That was the name of that, and we which was really just the it was really just the same alliance as our pregame. Just Matt was no longer on our tribe, so we replaced Matt with Dylan, or we replaced Matt with it was with Dylan, I think. Because it was, or no, did we replace it with Jeremy?
There was two.
There was there were 2 5-person chats, and it was me, you.
Me, you, Jeremy, Dylan, and Parker was the Elsa, and then we had the Harry Potter one with Matt, myself, Dylan, and yourself. It was 4.
And Parker, I think.
And Parker.
There was definitely, it was 2 groups of 5, because I specifically remembered Matt left and we replaced Matt with someone else. And I think that was because I had my Final 3 deal with Jeremy and Noah, and I didn't want Jeremy in too many chats with me, so I feel like that's why Jeremy wasn't in that Harry Potter group and Dylan was instead. But then we needed Jeremy in case we went to 2 tribals, because we had Jarrett as a I don't remember my day 2 boot order. That's so long ago. I don't even remember who started day 2 of season 9 anymore. But I do know that my finals, I think I wanted to go to the end. By the time day 2 started, I do think my final 3 was me, Nick, and Parker. I felt like that was going to give me the best shot, because I feel like we all played similarly on day 1. Like, we could all take similar amounts of credit on day 1, and we could all take, if everything goes to plan, similar amounts of credit on day 2. And then what I was just going to hope won out for me was that I took advantage of the pregame time. Whereas, and it's none of Nick's fault. Nick was busy with Nick's campaign, stuff like that. So Nick didn't really get as much pregame time. And Parker just chose not to. So I was kind of, my hope was I could get to Final Tribal and use that me, Nick, and because what I didn't want was like someone like a Robin. If I go to the end with Robin, Robin literally was added to the game the day we started, or the day the cast was revealed, or whenever she was added. So she had minimal pregame time for a reason.
Mhm.
People like me, Nick, and Parker were kind of known to be playing the game those 2 weeks before cast reveal. So I always wanted to sit in the end with two people who were known to be playing the game pretty early on and chose not to pregame.
Yeah.
And I was going to take that risk that, like, hopefully the jury would respect the pregame I did to win out. And I don't necessarily know that would have happened, but that's what that's how I would have pitched my Final Tribal, basically. But yeah, I think we touched on the major season 9 points.
Yeah. Just to close season 9,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that a player that impressed you the most was Jeremy that season?
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I had already seen Jeremy play the SFJ Sequester at that point. And this was a very Sequester-esque season of Corey's org. So I already knew that Jeremy was going to be good. So impressed, yes, still impressed. But I feel like a lot of times impressed and surprised get like kind of similar to a point. And like for like surprised or impressed, Miranda definitely like bow down to the queen. Like, and mainly in her Final Tribal. Like, and I think that's what made it even more impressive is that Miranda was calling shots right alongside you and Keanu. But none of us knew that. None of us knew how close she was to y'all. And like, I will always say that Miranda stating her lie of telling Keanu that she picked him for their tribe to earn his trust, like, not necessarily that was a slight on Keanu's game, which I do think maybe it is a little bit. Like, I feel like Miranda saying that and Keanu believing that is like, ooh, Miranda outsmarted Keanu. In that one instance, Miranda outsmarted Keanu and really gained his trust from a lie. Like, that's what she did. She lied to Keanu, and it made him trust her more.
And he took her. I mean, he worked with her closely, and it got them to the final 3. So
yeah,
it's because of that move that she ended up bidding.
It's similar to me of the case I always make for why Parvati is potentially the best player of Micronesia. Is like, yes, like let's compare Parvati and Miranda and Keanu and Suri in a way. And yes, probably if Suri gets to the end and if it's Final 3, Suri probably does win, unlike Keanu here. But in my mind, and the reason that I like give Parvati a lot of credit is Miranda's the one who makes that alliance. And that alliance then runs the game. That the group that ran that game is a group that Miranda was mainly responsible for putting together. Yes, Keanu may have come up with the like done the flashy thing, done the move, done the this, done the that, like Suri does with like she's the main person, her and Natalie that do the Eric thing. So like they get points for that, but that Eric thing still doesn't happen if the Black Widow Brigade's never formed.
Mm-hmm.
Miranda and Keanu don't run the game together if Miranda doesn't do that thing. So it's always like that, like slope of like if this, then this, then this, then this. Like it's a slippery slope argument, but like I still think that's something that's super impressive, and like that's why Miranda gets my vote in 9. And Keanu, I would have thrown Keanu a vote just so he had a vote had I known you weren't voting for Keanu, and I've said this a million times. But there's just no world in my mind where Keanu wasn't getting at least one vote from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the best co-host of season 6? It was obviously Tyler Moore. No, I'm kidding. Best co-host of season 9 was obviously Ingrid. Duh. Don't tell McKenna I said that. But yeah, so Do you have any other questions about 9?
No, I think we can move
Cool.
on to season 10.
Yes, now that we're at 2.5 hours. I'm going to have the record. No one's going to, I mean, unless you do an interview with Gabe or Matt, they might be able to beat this time. Oh, no, your interview with Nick. If you ever do one with Nick, that's going to be like 5 hours.
My God.
Played everything. All right, 10. So 10, and this is something like.
Did you get an invitation?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Here's the little like story here. I got an invitation from Corey to play season 10 before season 9 was even a thing. And it was a different theme, is the thing though. So the original theme of 10 was going to be Challenge Beasts versus First Boots or Pre-Jury versus and a third category that Corey hadn't come up with yet. I might be wrong. Gabe's awake. He can probably correct this now. I'm going to rely on Gabe to correct me when I'm wrong now. Yeah, this is how far behind people are. It's fun. It's fun to like see the comments pop up and have to like try to guess what they're referring to. But whatever. So originally, Corey had said to me and McKenna on a Zoom that we were both locks for season 10 for the Challenge Beast tribe, along with Nick. Finalists, possibly runners up versus First Boost versus Challenge Beast. Thanks, Gabe. So he had said that me, Nick, McKenna, and I think he even was including Gabe at that point, we're all going to be Challenge Beasts. And so before season 9, no, this was before season 8. Sorry, this was before season 8 because we had talked about it because season 8's premiere happened when we were doing the meetup in Philly of like me, Abby, Garrett, McKenna, Nick, Sam. And at that meetup, me, Nick, and McKenna solidified a final 3 for season 10. And obviously McKenna doesn't play season 10, so like things get changed. And it's totally on me. I take full responsibility for not sticking with Nick as much as I should. But like any slight change to a plan, my mind then overcorrects the plan. So like if I'm no longer going to a final 3 with me, Nick, and McKenna, like that was the deal. The deal was all 3 of us. If one of those people is different, then now in my mind the deal's off, but the deal shouldn't have been off, and I take full responsibility for fucking that up. But yeah, season 10 is a season where I might have gone into too many promises. Yeah, like that's the thing is like the me, Nick, and McKenna final 3 was never a secret either. Like that, like people knew. Oh wait, no, she's talking about like that was the theme. Never mind. So yeah, so season 10 I might have gone in with a few too many promises. And here's the thing, and I still stand by this. I don't think I said the words ride or die to anyone but Emma until Emma was voted out. Like those are the words I might have said, and this is where I've always gotten in trouble. And I always claim this, and I own up to it. For me, there's a difference if I tell you we're going to go deep in the game or we're going to go to the end of the game or stuff it together versus ride or die. Those are two different things. Ride or die for me literally means I want you in Final Tribal and I will do what I can to make sure it's both of us there. If I say I want to go to the end with you, that's like Final 6-ish. And like I know the end of the game is Final 3, but like in my mind, the end game is those last few votes where you're like really shaping your final. So I'm gonna have to like completely change my strategy now if I ever play again. No one is still watching besides Ingrid and Gabe. So and plus most of these people already know, and I've said this to them anyway. But no one else is watching at 2.5 hours. But yeah. I don't know. I feel like we've talked season 10 to death. And I know Ingrid's gonna say retweet when she hears me say that.
I have some
I want
questions.
questions. Yeah.
I have,
I want questions for season 10 more so than trying to just like talk through it because
I have questions. One of my questions is, had you made it to the end, do you think that you get every single vote from the jury, or is there people that you never would get their votes? And
say that
I'm
one more
and
time. Sorry, I read Gabe's comment instead of listening to you, and that was bad.
it's okay. And this question is because like something happened at Tyler W's vote out where he got voted off, and you said say hi to me, say hi to Rachel for me. So did you think that you lost his vote? If you would have made it to the end, do you think you would have had everybody's vote, or
I don't
someone
think I
like
get everyone's vote, but I don't necessarily think those are the votes I lose.
Mhm,
One, I think it all depends on who I'm with.
mhm.
Obviously, it always does. Um, so I will say when I had gotten to Ponderosa from being voted out, like like one thing, I'm not getting Mariah's vote. I don't think. Like let's just go with that. Like I'm not getting Mariah's vote. Just because you said I'd say it. Period. Um, so like I said, I don't think I'm getting Mariah's vote, but I do think and I might be wrong, but and he might have been wrong is the thing. When I got to Ponderosa, Dylan had said that like and maybe this is him speaking from before Mariah was even voted out, but he had said that like all three of the first three jurors were like probably going to vote for me. Like obviously things can change, but at that point in time, I don't think I lost Rachel or Tyler's vote from that. I know it was like a dickish thing to say, and I planned on apologizing for it too. When I got to the end, I like full on. It was like heat of the moment, and like because here's the thing: it's like at that point in time. Oh my gosh! Now I'm gonna mess up dates, and she's gonna yell at me. At that point in time, I don't know if me and Ingrid are a couple at the Tyler W vote.
Mhm.
I don't know if me and her are talking yet. I know we are really good friends, and I know I want Ingrid in my game, and I need Ingrid in my game, and I want Ingrid in my game. And I'm this close to losing Ingrid at that vote. So the stress and the tension is all the way up here on like Ingrid's about to go, and this is going to be bad for my
'Cause it
game.
ends up being a tie.
It's a tie, yeah. And then I'm I go to Mariah and I beg. Yeah, okay, we definitely have to be talking then. And Gabe even said it. I beg Mariah, do not vote Ingrid out. I'm like, what do you want? Like I like whatever you want, you got it. If you flip and you vote Tyler W out here. And she says, I want what I've wanted from the start of this game, and that's Gabe going. And I'm like, you got it. If Tyler W goes, Gabe will go next if he doesn't win immunity. And yes, I knew I was lying the whole time. But at that point, I'm saying whatever I can say so that Ingrid stays in the game.
You pulled the Rob.
Yeah, I pulled a Rob to Lex type deal. And the other thing too is, yes, I was lying.
She was your Amber.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad comparison. And there's a chance Ingrid beats me in the end because she's more likable. But yeah, the thing is I felt bad lying to Mariah because I do, and she knows this. I do genuinely value my friendship with Mariah, but I had to say what I needed to say to make sure that Ingrid didn't go. I needed Ingrid in that game. That was the one person I knew I could trust. And I thought I knew I could trust Bianca. So like Bianca and Ingrid were like the two people I knew I could trust at that point in the game. And like I had to do whatever I did. Okay. So yeah. So we're talking. So Mariah, I tell Mariah, yeah, whatever you want, that's it. Like we're gonna do. It is. Like I hate to like I hate to like be like you're right, Mariah. But it was a bad move for Mariah, and like I kind of love that I was able to pull it off. Like I hate it for Mariah. Like from a personal friend standpoint with Mariah, I hate that like I made Mariah make a move that was so bad for her game. But like it was supposed to be really good for mine. It's in the stats. But so the other thing too, though, is like, yes, even though when I told Mariah we would vote out Gabe next, I had no intention of doing it. I don't think I could have pulled it off. Like, I will still stand by that to this day. That I don't think I could have gotten the votes to get Gabe out there. And like I know Mariah was like relying on me to flip like Ingrid and Nick, but in like conversation I would have with Ingrid and Nick, especially Ingrid, don't want to completely throw her under the bus here, but like Ingrid did not want to vote out Gabe. Ingrid was not mentally prepared to vote out Gabe at that point in time. So there was no voting out Gabe at the next vote if I wanted to. Because I also knew that there's no way I'm not flipping Chris C to vote out Gabe. I'm not flipping Bianca to vote out Gabe. Maybe I can flip Thomas, but Thomas is still going to tell Ingrid, and then I'm going behind Ingrid's back at this point. Like, I'm not going to flip the right people of my 7 to do it. So there was just no way, and I had to just go with what it was going with, and then we get to my vote out next. So, and I still to this day, Ed, you are the one person that could have helped me win that game. I do, because I think of everyone. Yeah, I think of everyone. You were probably you and maybe Bianca. She could have like not been telling me the truth at the point when she said this, but you and Bianca both have told me that you were close to telling me to play something if I had it. And I think if either one of you guys tell me, I think there's a good chance I win that season. Like, I don't want to sound like overconfident or cocky in that, but it's just
it's the truth.
If I play the idol there, Tyler M goes. I now know that the one hiccup to this whole thing is that, but it's also not a hiccup. All right, double-edged sword here. The potential hiccup is that I still trust Bianca. I don't know Bianca was in on the plan. Theoretically, you or Matt tell me Bianca was in on the plan, but at that point, do I believe you or not is the question. Because like that is how good Bianca was with her social game with me. Was like, I thought I was Bianca's person just as much as she was mine.
I would have pulled Austin on season 9 and thrown her under the bus in front of Trouble.
Yeah. And I think Ingrid would have believed you. I don't know if Nick would have believed it. Like, it's all these different factors of who believes it enough for me to feel comfortable going a certain way. But I do think potentially if you tell me to play an idol, I play it, it's correct, Tyler M goes. I think I get me, Ingrid, Nick, and Thomas to flip over to you and Matt and Colin. I think that kind of becomes the group that tries to like run the game for a bit if we can. And at that point, it really was, I just would have had to win 2 immunity challenges without playing an advantage. And I'm guaranteed final 4. And then and then at that point, I have my legacy advantage to get the skip a level in Levels of Doom. If I still lose Levels of Doom and I can somehow force a tie, I have an advantage in the fire making challenge. Like, I'm so well set up to walk to the end of that game. But then there's also the whole thing of, do I have the respect of the jury if I had to play all those things?
Well,
so it's tricky.
One of the things is because, like, in the final 9 immunity touchy subjects, they asked who would have won this game.
Yeah.
And the majority of the people were still playing, and they voted for you. It was unanimous.
Yeah.
So I do feel like unless something really changes, if you stay,
it's tricky because even final 9 is so early in the game. That, like, yeah, at final 9, 2 votes after I'm gone, and you had to pick from the jury. Or maybe it was only 1 vote after I was gone. Maybe that was the next challenge. But you still had to pick from us jury members. And yeah, like, no offense to my other jury members, but I think out of those 5 people you had to vote between, the jury member who was gonna win if they got to the end it has to be me. Like, get Dylan too from like his amazing social game, but like, and I love all the jury members. Like, I don't want that to be like a mean comment, but just from the threat level I had, the status I was getting, the everything that was being thrown at me, like, I don't think it's a surprise that I was a unanimous vote on that one.
So season 10, you get voted off, but you also set a record for the most advantages a person has in their pocket while being voted out.
I
You
actually set the record for the most advantages anyone possessed at one time, period, regardless of whether I was out or in.
Okay.
Probably
And-
most advantages gotten in a season, because I actually got 11 advantages total that season.
And adding to that, you were actually, one of the answers was to be voted into like the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
That was an achievement you recently it came to pass
Oh
right
my
now.
God, thank God. I still had to wait for you to get inducted first, but
No, but
no.
well deserved along
Thank
with
you.
like season 10 winner Chris.
Chris.
But going back to that, that was one of the greatest achievements in my mind for season 10. I think one of the things that really was a positive, I guess, going back to season 6, is that you can take away from this is, so do you think you don't find love, or it still happens? Because
now we're
season
talking
10
about
happened.
Ingrid.
Yes.
Now we're talking about Ingrid. Okay. It's tricky. So I think the high stress and needing to find I think the high stress and the needing to find someone needing to find someone you can trust, and I think little aspects like that definitely helped me and her get closer. So I do think there's a chance that, like, without season 10 we don't date or we're not a couple. But there's also, like, Ingrid and I were talking as like friends well before season 10 started. There's like it's hard to necessarily say for sure. But all right, hold on. I need Gabe to clarify too. I'm not going to stop talking about Ingrid, but I want Gabe to clarify. I have 11 advantages in one season. Is that, are you saying Bo had 11 in his whole career, or Bo had 11 in one season? Career-wise, because if Bo had 11 career-wise, then I still have the most career-wise too, because we need to add my season 1 stuff to my total. Anyway, but yes, so okay, whole career. So yeah, so I had 11 in one season. So okay. Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard to say. You never know what light, and like I do, and I'll say this publicly after 2 hours 47 minutes, I do genuinely believe that Ingrid is my soulmate. Like I do believe that, and I feel like because of that, we would have found each other regardless. Like that's what I have to believe, but I feel like this was the way we were intended to meet and come together. So yes and no. It's hard. I think it's just so hard to say. It's like yeah.
What I was almost referring to clarify is that you ended up setting this record, and yes, you did. Like, even though you didn't win, you got voted off again. I feel like for me, from my perspective, is like you didn't win. You accomplished other things with like the advantages, but you also found love, with Ingrid, and that's one of the positive.
Ingrid definitely is the best prize that I've gotten out of all of my seasons that I've played.
That's what I was kind of like trying to like refer
and
to.
that is 100% an accurate statement.
So to me, it's like going back to season 6. I think that's the greatest thing to come out of season 7. I mean, season 10 for you, besides the advantages. Do you think
the advantages are not a good thing for me in season 10? That is my biggest blunder.
I think it's
not playing them.
The way I see it is like, yes, you didn't play them, but still it's impressive, and I always, will give props.
And I will say that was the other thing, to go back to talk about how I was kind of worried if I got to the end of 10, would the jury respect the fact that I had to use all these advantages, and like I just really didn't have to worry about the last half of my game, basically. What I was hoping to be able to say at a final tribal to like sway it into people respecting is, in order to get those advantages, I had to work my ass off harder than most people in the beginning of the game to solve those riddles, to get to Lucina Island, to maybe find out other blocks that I didn't have from other people. Because some people did tell me squares that I didn't have that helped me like find different things. I think I found one of the idols because Mariah told me one of the blocks you told her at a certain point, and it was one of the 2 idols that I didn't have.
Mariah.
It was like I knew where one of the final 7 idols were, but I didn't know where the other one was, and you did, and Mariah told me. Like me, Mariah, and Nick had a Zoom call where we all listed all the grid spots we knew to each other.
Mhm.
I didn't list all the ones I knew. I listed most of the blank ones I knew, but I didn't list all the ones that I knew.
I still love you, Mariah, though. I think I might have given her the one that with the merge idol, which is I had already.
Yeah. So a question, because I don't know if I ever asked you, was that an idol that could only be played at the merge, or it got like it was
only at the merge?
Okay.
So
that was my idol too that I played at the merge. It was only good for there.
I've never said this. I don't think I have, but I will say this right now that it was useless until the merge. So had we lost, it's pretty clear that I would have been gone. You're out 2.0.
I think it's still.
I would have. If we would have lost, I would have maybe felt like I was going. I would have sent it to Ingrid, that idol. I told Corey if you could send idols, I would have given it to Ingrid.
Yeah, I was.
Because then I wouldn't have survived.
But I think. So wait, was that? It wasn't good until the merge, or you could only play it at the merge tribal?
No, it was good until it was. It activates at the merge.
At the merge. Okay, yeah. So that's what that's because Gabe was trying to clarify. That was more my question.
It was good until final 6.
Okay, yeah, that was more my question. I was more so wondering if it was an idol that got activated at the merge, or if it was only good for the merge tribal, which is what my idol that I played on myself at the merge was. It was an idol that could only be played at the merge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so talking about Yara 2.0, I would love to say yes, you would have gone, but I was still so unsure because there were so many variables at play. Of like, I knew me, Nick, Chris C, and Chris R. I knew us 4 and Bianca, us 5. I knew us 5 were pretty much probably on the same page, but I knew Mariah was getting closer to you and Matt. So I wasn't, and I really did, Mariah. I promise you, I wanted to trust you. But
yes, Ingrid, I was going to send you the idol. Sorry, I'm responding to Ingrid.
Like, I wanted to trust Mariah, but I wasn't sure. Like, she was just getting so close to Matt that it worried me. And I know Matt's good. So I wasn't sure. Yeah, I know you do, Mariah. So that was the thing. Like, I knew, and that was the thing. I knew that Mariah wanted Gabe. Like, I knew if it was up to Mariah and Yara 2.0 goes to a tribal, Gabe goes. So I wasn't sure if she would potentially like sabotage the plan to get you or Matt out instead of getting Gabe.
I was talking with her. I was throwing out Chris R's name. I was like, I want Chris R, and she's like, Chris R is throwing your name out. So I was like, okay, he has to go. And she's like, would you do something else? So I was like, Gabe, I will do it if the votes are there, because I feel like at that point I felt so betrayed because I wasn't in an alliance, and then Gabe was in another alliance with Matt, who I trusted, since day one. So I was kind of like, if it comes down to it and it's not me, because at that point I was worried about you, because like we were kind of like dancing around each other, and I didn't know if I could trust you, and I felt like
I definitely didn't trust you. So I told myself after 9, I was like, I'm not trusting Ed in 10. Like Ed can say whatever he wants to say to me. I'm not believing it. Like there was zero chance for me, and that it was kind of the same with Matt. Where like in season 10, I did want to work with Matt if I could. There really was part of me that wanted to work with Matt if I could, but I was so scared that Matt wasn't going to get over 9. Like I was so scared that Matt was gonna like any chance Matt got to take me out because I took him out in day 1 of 9. I was so worried that Matt was going to jump on that opportunity. But yeah, you definitely, if I was in as much control as people said I was, you would have gone in a Yara 2.0 tribal. But I was never confident in the amount of control. I was never confident in the amount of control I had all season. When we voted Robin out, I thought I was going. I had 3 advantages by the time I voted Robin out, and I gave all 3 of them to Ingrid when we went to the Robin tribal because I thought I was going. I thought there was a chance I was going, and I was not going to get voted out with 3 advantages. LOL. But I was not getting voted out with 3 advantages, so I gave all of them to Ingrid, and then she was kind enough to give them all back to me. But yeah, I was terrified at every tribal I went to that I was going, except for the one that I didn't go at, except for the one that I was. I don't think I said Mariah wanted me out after Robin. Like that was like I knew Alan was like mounting the forces against me at his vote out. I didn't think that was the one other tribal where I didn't really think. Yeah. Yeah, that was the thing. I felt like me and Mariah were in charge of that Nuku 1.0, but I definitely was always gonna hype up that it was Mariah more than me because I already have a big enough target, and I don't feel like Mariah's target's big enough yet. So let's definitely keep on pushing Mariah up. And part of it too is I think part of my mindset too of pushing that Mariah's in charge is it has Mariah feel more like I feel like I'm indebted to her, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, Mariah, you are the one who saved me in Nuku. Like I owe you now. Like you can trust me because I owe you that. And like I know that mine and Mariah's friendship is never going to be like ruined because of the game. So I still felt I didn't feel like Mariah was gonna be bitter towards me. I was wrong. Mariah definitely was mad. But I feel like I don't feel like Mariah's mad at me anymore. I know you. I didn't think you would like that, Mariah. Which is why I said it like slowly. But like me and Mariah have had like our ups and downs from the game and stuff. I know you exploded. We all saw you explode. But yeah, I feel like it's gotten to the point, and even at that point, I didn't think the game would lose Mariah's friendship. And even if Mariah was upset at first, I felt like after the game I would be able to talk to Mariah and we would hash it out. I think Mariah's a very like kind person, and like she understands like even if the emotions are there during the game, I feel like by the end of the game she looks back and she gets its game and it's able to be like smoothed over. And that's how I really feel for most people in Corey's org. So I know like, and like Corey loves to say like, y'all don't vote your friends out, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I'll vote my friends out when I need to. Like, no, I'm not voting my friends out first because my friends are gonna be loyal to me for a little bit. So, but I will vote my friends out because I know that like my friends in Corey's org are going to understand. Like they'll be hurt at first for sure, but they'll understand it's a game at the end of the day. And I mean, that's the same thing that happened when I get voted out. I get mad at Gabe when I'm gone. When I get blindsided, I'm mad at Gabe, and I flat out tell Gabe when I'm going to jury, I'm like, you better win this season now. I'm like, if you do not win this season after blindsiding me, then it was worthless. Like in my opinion, you getting me out at 11 did not affect your game trajectory at all. I was wrong. Gabe keeps me in the game. Gabe likely goes around 7-6 in my mindset, in my perfect game. Like if this is the perfect game in which nothing ever flips in Bing Cat, like that 7 sticks together, and just gets to 7. In my mindset, I'm hoping Gabe goes around 7-6. But hey, the trajectory of Gabe's game changed when I got voted out because he did get to the end still. Oh my gosh! Now we're gonna have Gabe on an interview to explain. But yeah, that's where I'm at mentally. In that is, I would have wanted Gabe around there. Obviously, like here's the thing is too, like I don't necessarily know. Like I don't know that Chris, Bianca, and Gabe have a final 3.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, there are definitely things that like alter and change, but I'm hoping to play my advantages in the right way to where I am controlling things still. Is more so my logic there. But yeah, like I said, 9 10 are the ones I replay in my mind of like, damn, Ed, tell me to play my idol there, and I have a good shot of winning that season. Or in season 9, dang, Austin, say out loud that Keanu, Miranda, and Ed are a final 3. Or damn, Jeremy, play your idol on me. Like, it's those one thing that if it goes different, I think it's a game. So,
You've
and
played.
it's even season 1 too. I will say, like I say for season 9 10, but I think season 1 is the same thing of Austin just win immunities. Like it's 3 seasons of this game that I've played that I feel like if I got to the end, I probably would have won, or I stand a
True.
good shot.
You've played
So.
5 seasons now. Your
More.
most recent one, well, it's in the stats, but okay,
Yeah.
I will count it. I'm not Gabe.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that. But I will count it for the last part that I'm gonna.
Yes. Cool.
Closing out. But I have a question.
Closing out in 3 hours, babe. I'm coming to you soon.
Will you play again? And
Yeah.
if so, does it have to be a specific theme, or you'll just play because you love to play?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Let me re-clarify this. And it's funny because I said during season 10, I was like, I'm not fucking playing this game again.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm done. Like this. Like there were moments in 10 where I was like, after the season, it's no more for me. I would play again. I would really need certain like talks with Corey and stuff like that. Of like, I would need him to like promise a different type of structure, I think, to play again. Like I would
like knowing what you're gonna get yourself into, right?
Yeah, like, I would. I definitely would want more of a schedule. I mean, I love that with Amazing Race. We know we're meeting every Monday night. Like I love that. Like I know people that are playing Amazing Race right now want more nights, but like I like that I like that there's at least a set thing.
Mm-hmm.
And season 10 there was no set thing. It was when can everyone do it? When can we do it? And like it just, I'm like, if we have a set plan of like this, then everyone can plan around schedule. They can do this, they can do that, whatever. I'm personally a fan. I know Corey hates it. I'm personally a fan of scheduled riddle times. I like knowing I can go to bed at 10 p.m. and not have to worry about a riddle until I wake up for work the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I know it sucks for internationals and stuff like that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what Gabe speaks in code. But yeah. So I don't know. It's certain conditions have to be met, and yes, I would play again. But I definitely would probably play again.
Another question that I have is, I get my impression is this the org that means the most to you, and does it have to do with like the friendships, the people that you've met throughout this year? I know it's only a year, but in org, like months, it's like almost like it feels like 2 years or even 5 years, and you've definitely met some.
Yeah, this is the org that I have played that means the most to me. Obviously, my own personal org that I host, Survivor Fan Jury Games, for those of you watching that don't know. I mean, it's literally Gabe, Mariah, and Ingrid, who one's my girlfriend, the other two just played this season.
Season 11. You guys
11.
are actually doing season 11 right now.
We're almost done. We're getting close. We're at our final 4. But yeah, so obviously SFJ means the most to me because it's the one I started with Dylan. It's like it's my baby. It's one of my it's one of my baby. But yeah, in terms of like game I've played, there's no comparison. There's other games I've played where like maybe I talk to 1 or 2 people. Wait, I can't comment because I'm a host. I'm not going to comment on what Mariah said. I'm not going to share my opinion.
You can share it after the season is over.
I'll message Mariah. I can message Mariah privately. But yeah, so it's definitely like I was saying, back in 2014, I played RBB, and that girl I was talking about, who is like, I didn't know at the time of my first game, is a phenomenal player, but is I talk to her sometimes, There's a couple of people from my Twitter days that I still like keep in contact with. They're still like in the community or whatever. And I talk to here and there. But I don't really have friendships that I've made from other orgs that I have like carried on. If that makes sense. So this is definitely one of the only orgs that like I feel like I've played that then also been like tied into a friend group of or a community of sorts. So yeah. It means the most to me on a personal aspect.
One of my last questions that I have for you to kind of wrap up, but also summarize. You said you wouldn't have played season 1 looking back, yet you've made and you've connected with so many people. Do you still feel that way, or do you think that
knowing what I know now, yeah, I play season 1.
like
had I known like these friendships are created, I meet the like I meet Ingrid, like yeah, I play. Like I don't miss that opportunity. I meet like a few of my like best friends that I've ever had, and I meet Ingrid. Like yeah, it's a no-brainer. I say yeah.
Is it safe to say that this year with the org, it's one of the best things that's happened to you with like the pandemic, meeting these people, meeting Ingrid?
Yeah, I do. I've said I know for a lot of people in the world the pandemic sucked. I do think the pandemic's one of like the best things that's ever happened for me personally, is because like for Corey's org and all that. Like I think for sure, 100%. But yeah. And I want to say really quick too, like how I had mentioned that I vote for the player who like got me, like how I was saying that like I voted for, I thought about voting for Maggie in season 1. That's why I vote for Gabe in season 10 too. Is I feel, and like yes, I know it was more people who voted for me. I know it was like a group thing, but like I've always said that I always thought Chris C would flip. I wasn't expecting Gabe to flip. So like because there was a lot of questions on jury, like of like why is Gabe getting all the credit for the flip on Austin when Chris C did it and Bianca knew about it and this and that. And I'm like, because I've always said that Gabe got the credit because of the shock factor of Gabe doing it. Like there was always the thought in the minds of people that Chris C was going to flip, whereas there was less of a thought that Gabe was going to flip.
You often get hurt the most with the people that betray you. And also I feel like you kind of point the finger at them, but I think that just shows that they're the ones that, made that because you feel that much betrayal from them.
And it was really too that I felt partially obligated to vote for Gabe when I told him, you better win this season now if you're going to make voting me out worth it. So I felt obligated when Gabe's in to give him my vote because I said that to him. But that whole season too, like I'm not necessarily rooting for Gabe. Like I'm stating on jury, if Gabe gets the end, he gets my vote. But I'm rooting for Ingrid. I'm rooting for Nick. I'm rooting for Bianca. I'm rooting for these people that I was close to that I like to do something to not let Gabe get there. But regardless, I'm voting for Gabe if he's there because he's the one who got me, if that makes sense. And even then, even when Gabe is in the end, and I'm 99% sure I'm voting for him, I'm still looking to Bianca at Final Tribal to give me a reason to vote for you. Give me a good enough pitch and a good enough reason, and I will do it. But she didn't. And I know Chris C gave his great speech, and I think Chris C is a fantastic winner. It just wasn't there for me during the game to ever give him my vote.
Yeah, and we definitely respect how everybody voted. Like, I would say that definitely I was torn between Bianca and Gabe. I wasn't bitter towards Bianca. And I wasn't bitter towards Gabe because at one point I even was, and we spoke about this, that I was going to vote for him. But I wasn't really, I made the one thing that I didn't do in other seasons is like I didn't go with an open mind because I even wrote it on my parchment, like Christy did not have my vote going into that tribal council, and he did. I changed my mind. But to close this whole thing, I will read some stats that Gabe sent me. And you're gonna thank me for including season 3, and this is why.
Okay.
You have played 5 seasons. You've total of 71 days playing Corey's org. and you rank at 19th of playing the most days played. If you add 31 onto those, which is the Herzog
Number of days
Island,
on Herzog, yeah.
yes, it brings you down to 11th place, which is 102 days. That's including the 4 days on season 3 that you didn't play. And can I just say that you are one of the best to ever play, and even though you didn't win, that doesn't make less of a deserving to eventually win one day in a season, or even to be amongst, like, maybe like in the future, like a legend season. I've played with you, and I know how much of a great player and strategist you are, and I do respect you, and I think you should be very proud. I know that you had a rough time with not being able to play season 3 and then being voted off at season 6, and you talked about how you felt really sad about that. But I feel like you're one of those people that I root for in Survivor when they come back after a long break, and they get to shine, like almost like a Kimmy Kappenberg, from season 2 and like season second chances. So I really think you got to shine on season 9 and season 10 and show that you are this great player, and you're one of the top 7 best to ever play. You're in the Hall of Fame, and
finally.
you have yes, finally, well deserved. You have so many amazing friends that love you, and an amazing girlfriend, and it's all because of you playing this orc, the thing that you love probably the most in, I guess, favorite shows. And I just want to say thank you for being here tonight and doing this interview and letting us see a little bit, not just the player, but behind the player and the person that you are, because you're not just Survivor player, you're also a person, and we've all met you because of this game. So I just want to say thank you, Austin. Thank you for being here. And any thoughts?
When is Ingrid's interview? That's what she wants to know. Ingrid said one more thing. When's my interview at her?
I have 3 people scheduled, and the minute we will schedule that. Like, anybody is free game. Anybody who wants an interview, you just send me a message, and I will schedule it as accordingly.
Can we get a little teaser of who's next?
I will say
a little clue.
Yes, I'll do. You know them.
Oh, that's wow.
Wow. I'm being like Corey, where it's like the first clue is like
that's even worse than Corey's though.
It's like
Corey
very big.
The gender.
It's a female.
Okay.
It's a female, and you know them.
Oh, I know all of the players who have played Corey's org. So Ed,
I would say you would be very happy for this interview.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Jordan is here. Just that's it. Oh gosh, is it a Robin interview? That would be amazing. I'm just reading the comments, the guesses now. Like, a Robin interview would be cool. I know it's not Ingrid.
Well, on that note, I will play something that you can relate to and I can relate to. And I will say, the life has spoken. Thank you, Austin, for being here tonight, and to all of you for watching. Looking forward to making more of these. And thank you. Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.